Uh, Okay,
Yep.
first item would be the approval of the meeting minutes from October 14th.
Oh, so moved. I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Elzing, seconded by Commissioner Bagley to approve the meeting minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, approved. Chairperson's report. Well, we're in the cold and flu season and that's biggest thing everybody says is wash your hands.
Did you make it to the shack meeting?
The shack meeting was a struggle. I did not physically make
I didn't
it,
go.
and Jill was not either. And we tried to online and they had some major problems. It was hard to follow. So I guess I don't have any report from the shack meeting. I didn't, unfortunately, I didn't see any notes yet that came out about it. Maybe they did. I mean, okay.
Some of it is about foundational, like the public.
Yeah.
You on the recording.
There's, I get frustrated with, and a lot is happening at the state level in all forms. I don't know if everybody saw, the sheriff sent a letter that they don't trust the commissioner of corrections yesterday. Mayors, 98 mayors sent a letter to the legislator saying, hey, quit messing with us. So, and there's a lot of going, but I struggle with public health because it's changed in 20 plus years and they're still trying to figure out who they are. And every time, our commissioners are political appointees. And so every time a new commissioner of any of these major departments in the state level comes in, they have, unfortunately, a different agenda or a different emphasis. So then I find them sitting at the shack meetings, they're scrambling, trying to figure out what this, commissioner wants them to do. And so maybe you can shed some light on that. That's just my skepticism.
I don't know that I can shed light on that. What I can talk about is the fact that we did review the foundational public health responsibilities, and they gave more definition to some of those, which will be helpful as I walk through the presentation this morning and talk about those. It does allow us to be a little bit more clear as we look at some of those foundational pieces in the grant that's been provided for that. But it was a big chunk of the meeting we couldn't even get on for, and then I exited because you couldn't hear.
Yeah, there was technical challenges.
Yes,
unfortunately.
very difficult.
Unfortunately. Okay, there being no consent business, Jill, we'll go right into general business. 5.1 is discuss contract with Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center to support post-incarceration care coordination services for substance abuse. And that was on page 117 of our general.
Okay.
So if you can enlighten us what that's all about.
The post-incarceration contract, I thought I was doing a presentation at
Oh,
8:30
okay.
this morning, so I apologize.
Well,
I'm feeling a little confused.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Let's see,
But I can do whatever
that's
you'd
okay.
like.
Just a second. It's 7.7 on our regular agenda.
Yep.
For I guess, I don't know, how many people are we servicing? I was astounded, Deputy Chief Mueller said what the average stay of our prisoners is, 6.5 and 5.5 days. So they're in and they're out. What do we do? And this says post incarceration. So what contact do we have them after we let them out of jail?
I think it's two-part. This is this allows us to, even though they're incarcerated, have contact during the incarceration period. And I think that's critical to engage, because what we have found is when you don't have that initial contact immediately, and I find this in all areas of mental health and substance use, that immediate, when they're in the crisis, when they're in the moment, having that contact and when they're ready to have that is critical. This would allow us to provide that service during the time that they are in the jail, which is different from what we're doing. I have had some conversations with Gwen of the CJCC and talked about the fact that let's watch this. Let's look at the numbers and the data to see if we see improvement as we move forward with that additional time that we have while they're incarcerated. It's just much more difficult to track people after they leave and to engage with them post-incarceration. So that initial contact is critical.
Yeah, okay, so these would mostly be people who are in Rep Plus, right?
Yes,
Okay, and so the count is, because they're full and have a waiting list, right? And I thought that was
Good, yeah, when Gwen
15?
made that presentation,
yeah,
yeah. Mhm.
15 and then another, I don't know, 10 or something on the waiting list. So that would be the count. Commissioner Ward, I mean, I guess at this point, yeah.
And if I could just jump into.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward, you mentioned what do we have to do with them after they get out? That's what the reentry program is all about too. It's that we help them, support them, through either Hiawatha Valley or our treatment court. And Hiawatha Valley has two people that are working with those folks, and then they help them get onto other, funding that is not, or back into like if they have social security disability or other kinds of, Medicaid, things like that, that can help fund them and get them off of, the other funding streams. But RAP really doesn't pay, a lot to them. In fact, it doesn't pay anything to them. It goes to the provider.
right. The
And,
service.
it's, my best example is buying shoes with metal toes so that people can go to work, and get a job. So it's really a continuum, this program that is on, what is it, item 7.7 of the agenda. And I thought some of that was coming from the cannabis use.
Yep, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
coming from grant
Yeah,
dollars.
yeah, if there's no.
Yeah, grant
levy-
dollars that we
no
have.
levy.
So the funding, it does say CSUP, so that's the cannabis.
Cannabis.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then the wrap, but
RAP is up to 7,000.
do we have to prove these people are there because of cannabis? I think there's a stretch here. And we talk about, like when we had the tobacco money, it was all related to tobacco. This cannabis money seems to be floating around out there.
And we've talked about that with, well, Emily's not here, but
Mhm.
Emily had, before Jill came on board, Emily had been working with this, and we actually met, myself, Gwen Herbert, who's the CJCC executive director, we met with Hiawatha Valley to talk about this. And yes, that came up, like any other grant program from the state, or the feds, but we felt that there was significant, I mean, these folks are suffering from substance abuse, and most of the time they're using marijuana. So, and sometimes that's a gateway.
But now marijuana's
sometimes.
been, at a federal level, marijuana's been declassified?
I think
There was
that's the
some change.
proposal by President Trump, but.
Oh, with him, it'll be law.
Yeah,
We know it.
executive order. I don't know this.
Does that
particulars of
affect any of this cannabis monies? I mean, maybe it's too early to tell.
I think it's too early to tell. But this is the cannabis monies from the taxes that are paid by Minnesota, sellers. I mean,
People who purchase.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, it's
like I
not
just
taxed,
drove down, Second Street, and there's the, several
but the
several
wrap,
marijuana shops.
the wrap, it says here, available
Up
up
to
to 7,000,
7,000,
and
yeah.
wrap is local levy.
That's levy.
That's local levy. Wrap dollars is local
Well,
levy.
it started as a federal grant, two federal grants, and then local levy.
That disappeared.
And
Commissioner Bagley.
very small, about 51,000, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, sorry.
Two things is that there was a front page article, I think today in the Winona Daily News, talking about what President Trump's executive order might mean for the cannabis industry and people in Minnesota. But it didn't talk about if it might affect the cannabis dollars or programs. Secondly, is this just, this is a process question. Are we just discussing it, or do you need a motion to approve it here and then approve it?
Approve it here, then approve the
Approve it
current
At our
order.
regular meeting.
Just to get it up on the continue this discussion, of course. I'll move to approve item 5.1.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bagley, second by Commissioner Meyer to approve the contract with Hiawatha Valley Mental Health to support post-incarceration care coordination services. Further discussion?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
Commissioner Meyer.
research shows that for, if someone has a substance abuse, if they're addicted, right? And you help them beat that addiction, and we have seen the numbers that the RAP Plus program has greatly reduces recidivism. So our own numbers show that it's really successful. For every dollar, you can get between $7 and $12 back because you help somebody beat their their problem. So I am going to support this program.
Any other discussion? I'm hesitant because 6 months, I don't think you change anybody's behavior in 6 months. I mean, yeah, maybe you get them started down the right path, but 6 months is a pretty short time to change a hardcore habit.
I would agree. And at the same time, I would say it's the intervention at the time. Within 6 months, you can actually make a huge, help them make some steps. But recovery is a process and it's different for everybody. And although it may take longer, this would give them the opportunity to post-incarceration become employed, have a funding stream, and do all of those things that are going to move them off of the county levy dollars or any other funding stream, and then be able to sustain that over time. Because you are correct, Commissioner Ward, recovery is a lifelong process. And it's something that people engage in. But that first time period of 6 months is critical, particularly with folks who are engaging with systems such as the legal system. And it's the most costly time. So the more we engage here, the less we're going to have to pay later on.
Okay, and I'll hold you to that.
Yeah.
We can quantify that.
But it is a grant fund, it's all grant
Yes.
funded.
Well, no, it's not. It's, the wrap is local.
Rep isn't, but
Yes.
this particular
Correct.
is, right? And does it
No,
look,
part of it is local.
part of it is
Yeah,
local.
I
yeah.
thought we gave opioid funds to RAP.
It's been requested, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know
For
that we,
2026.
if we've, yeah,
And 2025.
But we would not have to use levy money in that case.
okay.
Yeah.
Does that?
Is there a continuing, I mean, does it look like it's gonna continue to be funded through a grant or what's
I
the
think
long-term outlook?
Yeah.
I wish I could tell you a long-term output, but I think we're reevaluating each contract and reevaluating as we go and doing that in partnership with you.
But one of the biggest things that I see happening all the time in government, these programs are great. They're funded through something, the funding dries up, and then it's all of a sudden the local person is stuck with the tab trying to figure out how to pay for it. And we're seeing that over and over and over and over, which is why the letters are going out to the state. Hey, these programs are great, but we're having to foot the bill. And it's getting difficult for the average person to foot the bill all the time for somebody else's mistakes. And the accountability has to set in at some point for people where the ease of getting out of their decisions makes it so easy to get into it. And that's one of the biggest problems that I see is that accountability is going out the window in the United States because we're designing so many programs to make it easier to get out of poor decisions. And so it's a catch-22 on that basis of why it's that way. So I agree 100% with wanting to help people, but I also keep it in context that at what point is it no longer everybody else's responsibility to make up for somebody else's bad decisions? And that's the catch.
Mhm.
And that's what we see. And because it's leaning that way, it's going that way, full steam ahead of, hey, you don't have to be accountable. We got 17 programs to bail your butt out. We got all these ways to put you up in housing, find you a job, find you the boots with steel toes in them, get everything else and everybody else who's not making those decisions and making the good decisions to fund the people that are not making good decisions are standing up saying, hold on, you hold me accountable. We need to hold these people accountable too. So I'm standing up for the voice of reason for the people that have to foot the bill to pay for people who are making bad decisions. And that is the issue that I have because those people are coming to me saying, hey, we're running out of money to help all these people out. At some point, they have to be held responsible for their decisions. And so that is the issue that we have, I think, at hand. So these programs at face value sound so good, but is anybody looking at stopping it from the get-go? Saying, hey, there are big consequences for these decisions. And that's the preventative action that we need to make sure just as well as the post-reaction. And so when I go to my constituents and talk about everything that's being pushed down, it's one of the biggest things is, well, why do I got to be, this is literally true conversations. How come I got to be the good guy so they can be the bad guy? How come I got to be responsible so they can be irresponsible? And now I got to pay to get them out of the mess. And, so I want to put that into context so that everybody that's out there that's doing these good programs also has the flip side to this, that
Absolutely.
we are footing the bill for irresponsibility. And at some point, the people that are being responsible and not making those decisions and choosing to go down the right paths can't keep picking up the tab for people that are not, because everybody has the same opportunity to make that decision. I could go do drugs right now. I could go rob a bank. I could do everything just the same as anybody that's made a decision, and I choose not to. So the choice is, then there's got to be consequences for those choices, and that's where I think we need to be careful. So as long as the funding doesn't dry up, because what I see happening is the funding dries up for these, and then we say, well, we can't get rid of that great program, when in reality, we end up footing the bill now. So.
Being that you say that, this is only a 6-month extension, so that takes us into June. What are we doing in June? Are they coming back and looking, and have we budgeted for another 6 months? And I don't think we have. So I mean, that's a big question I have. We're doing something for 6 months, and I don't know why we determined 6 months. Who decided that? Because we run our budget on a
I
yearly
think it's
basis.
because it's under the state fiscal year for the cannabis dollars. The state has a different fiscal year than we
Yeah,
do.
there's different fiscal years for different grant
So
contracts.
it's, I don't know for sure.
Oh, okay, well,
but
that makes
it-
some
it's
sense then.
it's
So they'll be
most
back
likely,
to us
yeah.
in June or May or.
That this
June
isn't a
and
ploy to
yeah.
not help people, but we so often don't talk about accountability. We've lost accountability in our society.
I would love to have a conversation with you at some point about how I believe accountability fits into both substance use treatment and mental health treatment, and how it's a piece that I feel strongly about and have throughout my career, having been both, a therapist and a substance use counselor, and how that shows in the process. Because I hear you and I can understand your perspective. And at the same time, being as close to it as I have been, and myself being a person who feels strongly about accountability, and also feel strongly about treatment and how do we get there. So I would welcome that conversation because I think it's a good one.
I just think we need to
Attorney Son-
project more of it. Okay.
Attorney Sonneman, have a comment.
Since this is the public health, and I would like to speak to Commissioner Elsings as in my role as an elected, not as your corporate counsel, but like Jill, I have had 40 years of working with people as a public defender first, and seeing how some people just can't get out of a cycle of both poverty, abuse. They come from families that I've seen 3-4 generations. And when you say, people, they can just pick themselves up and be accountable and be responsible. Yes, they should, but they sometimes can't. And so these programs, particularly the treatment court program, we designed that treatment court program to make people accountable. And when they're not accountable, the consequence is that they go to prison. So they have that incentive to both do well, but then they realize as they go through the 18-month program that they are feeling better, they're getting off drugs, they're getting health treatment. We've combined that. So it's not an easy, it's a very complex problem. So it's not just about metal toe boots, but that's an example where even that helps them get that job they need, so they become a tax-paying responsible citizen and can be back with their families. So it kind of pains me for you to say that, and I agree, or I should say, I respect your position. I would ask you to respect the position of those of us who've been working with folks who've been in poverty, in homelessness. I mean, these are people at the, just, it's so frustrating to hear what you're saying, as if people can just pick themselves up and, get a job. They can't. They've been abusing substances. They have serious mental health problems. So anyways, I'll stop there.
We have another agenda item,
Yeah.
but we have a.
Yeah, I just wanted to say there wasn't a blanket statement. The idea wasn't that every single situation is the same, but as a whole, looking at society, we are not near as accountable as individuals, I feel. So in other words, when we continue to make these processes easier for people to obtain because the consequences aren't as dire as what they once were, It's what keeps me from doing things. It's the process. I think we can see it in our schools. We can see it in a lot of situations that just the persona of people is changing as to more of a dependent type system. Feelings and all the things that we never used to discuss when I was in school now become relevant. There's a lot of things that have changed that have allowed situations to get simple. Look at the murder rates, look at everything that's gone up because there's a disconnect. And even getting rid of certain simple things that law enforcement used to be able to punish people for, we can't anymore. So in other words, accountability, in my opinion, is changing. And so the cautionary tale to any protocol in business or government is to have the flip side to determine which way it's going. So there has to be an equal and opposite position to every position to make sure that that position is fair and valid. So all I simply said is that the positionary agent is to be sure that we're also holding people accountable, which is the far left, to helping people. That's all it was. It wasn't a blanket statement that every situation was the way it is. It's just simply saying we need to make sure we have accountability so we don't make it easy for any parties. 1 or 1,000 doesn't make a difference, because if every life matters, 1 or 1,000 doesn't matter, that people understand that this isn't a get out of jail free card. I can go do what I want, and there's 17 services to help me recover. That's all I'm saying. It's not that people don't have it hard. It's not that people don't have any of the things that you brought up to place. So I find it a little bit offensive to take my comment and put it all into one lump subject and say that I'm referring to every situation as exactly the same and that all people are held accountable for their actions, when ultimately they even are, regardless, unless they have some sort of
Well,
mental
we're all
problem.
held accountable, but you're making
Exactly.
generalizations, and I respect what you're saying. Please respect what I'm saying, and we can agree to disagree, so.
My parents taught me to be
Call the
accountable.
question.
So-
Sorry, but
Conversation,
just,
and
ugh.
I think, we don't want to cut you short on your public health thing, so we can have,
minutes.
well, we can have you, we can have you come back. This is good conversation.
Okay.
I think everybody's a little stressed this time of year. It's supposed to be a happy holiday season, and some of the things we're asked to do today are not making it happy holiday season.
Yes, and
And-
I welcome these conversations. I think they're important. And I really have seen, and we'll talk about that some with the public health presentation, how we have changed over time. And I think that goes right to Commissioner Elsing's point. We're constantly changing. And how do we adapt and change to meet those things and incorporate critical pieces?
All right, so we have a motion to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. It is approved.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you want to bring this next
Yeah.
item back to the next
Yeah, I
meeting?
think
you
to
like-
to do you justice, unless you got just a few things you want to highlight, and then we can come back at another future meeting and go through the presentation. Because you went to a lot of work. I mean, I don't want
I
to
actually didn't do most of the work. I
Oh.
want to give Jackie Henderson credit for the work that she did. So I think in order to really give it the time that's needed, let's do it another time, if that would be okay with folks. I want to think about the history of it and how we get there, because so much historical context is important.
I would move that we bring this, table it for now and bring it back in January.
Second.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
We have a motion to table. No, there is no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Approved. All right.
Thank you.
Jackie,
you.
sorry.
Thank you.
Take 2.
Okay, now I have to figure out. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Beautiful sunny morning in southeast Minnesota. We start our meeting with public comment. If there's anyone wishing to address the Winona County Board, both in the audience and online, we ask you to state your name and address, and you have 2 minutes to make any kind of public comment that you would like to. So is there anyone in the audience that'd like to make a comment? Seeing nobody come forward, is there anyone online that would like to make any public comment? And the process now, Heidi has to let them in,
Mhm.
and I know sometimes that's just a slight delayed. Is there anyone wishing to make a public comment? And the last time, is there anyone wishing to address the Winona County Board with public comment? Okay, seeing no action, we'll move on. Item 4 is the approval of the county board meeting minutes. We have 4.1 was a closed session, December 5th, 2025. And 4.2 county board, December 11th, 2025.
Move to approve 4.1 and 4.2.
I'll second. Oh,
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Vagley, seconded by Commissioner Meyer to approve the meeting minutes from December 5th and December 11th. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, approved. Item number 5, acknowledge receipt of approved committee meeting minutes. Excuse me. 5.1 is the Parks and Environment Advisory Committee of October 7th, 2025. And 5.2 is the land records of June 4th, 2025.
I'll move to approve 5.1 and 5.2.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Vagley to approve 5.1 and 5.2 Parks and Environment Advisory Committee, October 7th, and land records, June 4th. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, accepted and acknowledged. All right, number 6, consent comments and approval of the agenda. Attorney Sonneman?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Vagley?
One comment.
Okay. Commissioner Elsing?
Comments at the end, full 7.1 for discussion.
7.1, okay, we'll make that 8.0. And comments, you said?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Olson,
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Meyer,
I have a committee report.
and Ms. Holte?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay, and I have a couple comments and a potential future board action. And okay, but let's see, hold on a second, I had a lot of them here, but let's see. If people notice that in our consent business, we're approving a lot of contracts. And I guess they all have their place. But I do have some people here. I would like to pull 7.8. Get a little more info on that. So we'll make that 8.01. And then let's see, I could probably pull them all, but I won't. 7.10, I would like a little more information on that. 7.19, I would like some discussion on that. So that's 8.03. And 7.22, I would like a little more clarity on that. So that's 8.04. If I got all those, if I got those right. 7.8, 7.10, 7.19, and 7.22. And Ms. Holte, if you've got, can you read those? Remember?
I would move to approve the agenda as it
Second.
has been amended.
Okay, I'm sorry. We have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Olson to approve the amended agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, approval. Now, Ms. Holte.
Right, 7.1 has been pulled. 7.2, approved 2025 assessment of clerical corrections. 7.3, approved renewal of service and business associate agreements for day training and habilitation with ABC Works La Crescent. 7.4, approved purchase of service and business associate agreements with Family and Children's Center for mental health service, mental health services, basic living, social skills. 7.5, approved purchase of service and business associate addendum agreements with Family and Children's Center, DBA, Hiawatha Hall for intensive residential treatment services. 7.6, approved purchase of service agreement with Prestige Care LLC for guardian conservator services. 7.7, approved contract with Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center to support post-incarceration care coordination services for substance abuse disorders. 7.8 has been pulled. 7.9, approve renewal of purchase of service and business associate agreements with Thomas Allen Incorporated for general case management. 7.10 has been pulled. 7.11, approve renewal of purchase of service and business associate agreements with Blue Sky Incorporated for general case management waiver funded services. 7.12, approve updated rest periods policy 5.15. 7.13, approve elected official retirees 2026 benefit resolution. 7.14, approve resolution for 2026 sheriff's uniform allowance. 7.15, approve memorandum of agreement with LELS 61, shift commanders and jail program coordinator. 7.16, approve memorandum of agreement with LELS 64, licensed officers. 7.17, approve memorandum of agreement with ASME Courthouse. 7.18, approve memorandum of agreement with WIXI. 7.19 has been pulled. 7.20, approve 2026 funding for aquatic invasive species management prevention plan by Soil and Water Conservation District. 7.21, accept compliance status update, and 7.22 has been pulled.
Move to approve the consent business as it has been read.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Elsing to approve the consent business as read. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, approved. Right. So then going into general business, the first item is 7.1 was pulled, and Commissioner Elsing.
Yeah, so this isn't directed specifically at, obviously it's about Administrator Holte, but it's not directed specifically towards her. I just go back to, we relabeled what a cost of living increase is and put it as a general wage increase. You know, I look at general wage increases from a multiple different factor, but this is just a relabeled cost of living. And I'm not a big fan of percentages. You know, we look at, you know, performance evaluation, we look at, hey, yep, you know, can any business absorb rates, or is somebody being overpaid, underpaid? You know, I think with, especially as you move up in the upper echelons of pay periods and pay things, it makes it very difficult to justify percentages. And I don't think it's fair to the people below to do that. And, you know, I realize that the union had what the union had, and unfortunately we can't always dictate the way it should be, but we do have some power when it comes, especially to our high paid employees, to say, hey, this is a realistic salary for what it is that the job's being entailed. So again, this isn't directed towards any person. It's just my stance on giving blanket raises. I believe that they should be merit-based, and they're beyond just the merit of the individual, but also the circumstances in which they're in. So I do not agree with the 3%, just blanket, call it a COL, call it a general wage increase based on percentage basis.
Madam Chair, I'm going to move to approve this item.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Meyer, seconded by Commissioner Olson to approve the general wage increase for county administrator. Discussion. Did I miss it, or did we have a performance review?
We did. It was in that room over there.
But that's been, was it several,
Approximately
6 months ago?
6 months.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with handing out when you, as Commissioner Ellis said, when you get to the upper, it's a significant dollar amount without a real current performance evaluation. And I would like to see it tabled till after we would do that performance evaluation. And that's my stance on it. Commissioner Ellis.
We're going to be knocking on, in a short amount of time, when you do the math, compounded a $300,000 administrative position in the county, which I'm not sure anybody's going to agree with that. So I think we've got to kind of put things into wraps. And again, this isn't specific to any one person or their performance. Mine is based conceptually, based on the concept of just compounding interest. I mean, this is what makes compounding so interesting in investments. You know, we just can't continue to do that because it snowballs very, very quickly.
And I would agree, the percentage increase just keeps growing. If it's a one-time, you know, you did a Cracker Jack job that year, you get a bonus, call it a bonus or something, it's one time. And then you go back to the original square. With these percentage increases, it just keeps compounding astronomically over the lifetime of the thing. Commissioner Vagley.
I can relate to what Commissioner Olson is saying. I can also put myself in the position of county staff, especially newer staff. That 3% at a $50,000 salary is very different than 3% at a $200,000 salary. As a young teacher, even middle career teacher, I know how hard that was to look at. I know that's does cause me, it is difficult for me to approve this. I am going to, I'll vote in favor of it. And looking at what other county board commissioners get paid, it's simply the market rate. This is the labor demands. I wish it wasn't the case. And if it was, the market was different. That would be a different discussion, et cetera. But when we look at the simple rate, what other county administrators and people in the private sector equivalency make, these numbers still blow me away. 3 years into this new term, I'm still blown away by how much everything costs, et cetera. So I'm going to vote in favor, but I hear what you're saying in terms of 3% at 200,000 is very different than 3% at 50,000. And that does chew up more of the levy for that. So I'm going to vote in favor. And I want to thank everybody who is a department head and others for the work that they do.
We have a motion made by Commissioner Meyer, seconded by Commissioner Olson to approve the general wage increase for county administrator. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. 3-2. I still would like to have a performance review scheduled sometime in the first 6 months of 2026, if possible. Okay, moving then to the next item that was pulled is 7.8. Approved behavioral health 360 program with Credible Mind. Can somebody explain this? I mean, is this just a computer program or something that somebody goes to? And I do realize it's no levy funding is requested, but reimbursement is through Adult Mental Health Initiative grant. And I always have to question, what else could we use that money for? Because it's 13,000, and then we're a platform implementation and platform, and then we have a Spanish translation and a Hmong translation. Gets up to $13,900. Is that the best use of $13,900?
And I thought we had some redundancy in some of these translators that were paying other places.
Yeah, I don't know. Jill, it's Chafee.
Thank you. This is something that will be accessible to all of the public of Winona County. And I think that is an important piece to note. This is not for folks only coming here to receive service. It will be a link that will allow them to link to various ways to look at mental health, to assess for their family or for themselves, and to think about some of those pieces of their well-being. And so, yes, certainly you could always say we could spend it this way or that way. I have some ways that I want to adjust kind of our spending over this next year or two and look at some of those pieces through the mental health initiative. And this, I think, would be something that would touch more of our community than maybe just people coming in to receive services.
And how do we intend to let people know that this is out there? That's the big thing.
Yes.
It can sit in the shelf or in the web and. Yeah.
I think that's a great question, Commissioner Ward. One of the things that I was just talking with someone about is how do we communicate when we do some of these things? How do we get that word out there and let people know? And so that will be something that we will be looking at as we do this, because it is not something that we have done historically.
I'm sure.
Yes, Commissioner Meyer.
If we try this for the year, can we get, I don't know, some figures, numbers about how
Absolutely.
many people are accessing?
Yes, they have a lot of data that they collect. Oh, go ahead.
How many hits?
Yep.
Yes.
The website
But
gets?
people have used it, what things they've used, what's most popular.
That is one of the benefits of this particular organization. They're working with several counties, even in the Southeast region and throughout the state. And they do have the technology to monitor some of that performance and some of the data that we could bring back to you.
I'm going to move to approve this item.
What's that question?
Okay.
Is it
we have a-
anonymous?
Pardon me?
Do you have to register to use any of
No.
these services, or is it anonymous?
It's a link. It's just a link they click and they can look at the different tools that we have and some different services.
Okay, so we had a motion, Commissioner Meyer seconded, I believe, Commissioner Olson, to approve this. It's for 1 year?
Correct.
Okay, 1 year. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I have reservations. I don't know how I register that vote with reservations. Term I need to use. Okay. all
Abstain?
right. Abstain?
I don't think you get to get, like, I don't think you get a scale out.
Abstain means no.
No.
A scale out of 1 to 5.
Yeah, I just,
What you vote.
you know, again, if we don't let people know about it, it's a
Yeah.
useless.
And
website.
I will work to bring that information back to you as well, Commissioner Ward.
All right. Okay, then next item was 7.10, approved purchase of service agreement with National Alliance on Mental Illness Southeast Minnesota, and that's on page 177. And I think that was a $10,000 expenditure. And again, what are we getting for our $10,000?
So there has been recognition throughout the historical context of service delivery where we recognize that people with lived experience have very valuable input into how people engage with mental health and substance use services, as well as how our services are delivered in the community. And so this group is a group, the National Alliance of Mental Illness is a longstanding organization where family members and people experiencing mental illness come together and use their experience as well as their education around topics to really help design and give us feedback on the systems and the service delivery so that we have better outcomes and we have better ways of providing the service. This particular group is leading that in our area for the counties that are listed. And with that, it is no tax levy, no local county levy funds. This is an expectation that we deliver this type of advisory or local committee that gives us feedback, that we utilize such a group, and doing it within the counties that we have creates some efficiency in that regard.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Meyer.
I did not have anything to do with this contract coming to fruition, but I have been concerned about this for about 8 months. We have a statutory requirement to have this mental health local advisory committee. I have been to the meeting that was being run by Hiawatha Valley Mental Health, and really felt like in the 7 years I've been a commissioner, I've never had a report, and that is one of the things that the statute asks for. So I feel like we maybe haven't been getting the information that we should have been getting about this committee. So I think this is a great opportunity, and I do support this request. So I would move to approve this request.
Let me get this. So it's going to
Okay.
cover a statutory requirement in essence. And that's a little bit different than obviously just here's another group. But I look at a lot of these groups and this is just hypothetical. And there's merit to every one of them. But I also sat on how many water boards and I saw the redundancy in water boards over and over. And then what happens is every individual, nothing to you, but every individual stands up and wants to believe in their cause and their group. And then when the funding dries up, it's, I need you to fund me. And we saw that in all the water boards. And we saw that we had 32, I think, at one time. I mean, it was just insane. And I see the same thing happening. And then when every water board comes to be, it's their cause is the greatest. You need to say, that is my fear with every one of these. Now, statutorily is a little bit different until we can change the statute. But that's what I see happening. There's just so many groups that all have a good cause, that all want us to publicly take something from a taxpayer and say, fund me. And that's my fear, is that I see water boards happening all over again, and there's so many of them. So obviously, I'm going to agree to do this, simply the statutory aspect, if it covers our rear end on one thing. And I do believe there's probably some good to it. My fear is that the funding dries up and then we have somebody coming saying, hey, we want to put the local taxpayer on the hook, and they don't even know what they're getting for it.
But this is just not Winona County. This is
Right.
multi.
4 counties.
Yep.
Yes,
Right,
correct.
Is it the 10,000 for all the, and of course, the National Alliance of Mental Health, NAMI, I think they probably get federal funding?
No, that's a nonprofit.
Yeah,
Non-
it's a nonprofit.
That
And that's
doesn't
what's-
mean they
I mean-
Get federal
Well,
funding.
Like a
right,
grant.
but it's.
Yes,
Yeah,
But that sorry,
yes.
that alludes to the other thing. If it's a grant
Coming.
money, if it's just taking it out of this pocket.
Coming from somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, if it's statutory and if we can get some more additional information. I'm a little concerned. Okay, so we just approved that website that's supposed to be mental health, and then this is mental health. So when you click on, and you know, when you click on the internet, they're listening to you. If you thought about buying, if you thought about buying a kitchen appliance,
I
the
think
next
you're
time
right.
you
I think
open
you're
up,
right.
you get 10 ads for that kitchen appliance. So I guess one of my concerns is once you click onto one of these functions, and I've seen this happen, you know, you go to a medical doctor and they do these surveys and they ask you, they take, in my opinion, they take you right down a dark rabbit hole. Have you felt depressed lately? Have you felt like not doing this? Have you, you know, they take you down. So when we create all these things, where does it take an individual? What dark rabbit hole does it take them down? And is it really beneficial? That's one of my overall concerns. Commissioner Bagley.
About a year and a half ago, I attended one of the local advisory council meetings in Winona. It was a great discussion. I think that your point, Commissioner Meyer, is a good one, that it would be good to have some kind of summary of the notes afterwards. So I've only been to one. of
Yeah,
the
me too.
meetings. But if either you or I could contact Eric Sievers, who could then contact the NAMI folks, et cetera.
We could talk to Megan Tomey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm gonna also vote in favor of it, but I think it would be good to get more information from
Yeah,
him to summarize those conversations.
And when you, I'm sorry, please.
And lastly, the neat thing about that, there's actually more people who've used the services than staff. Sometimes I go to meetings and it's all staff and like a little bit of community. Here, it's a lot of community and a little staff. So that was good to see.
I mean, I think I would have appreciated education when I first became a commissioner 7 years ago on
Yeah, we hear nothing.
the existence of this committee, because I got asked about it on stage at a presentation. It was like, what? What? So I think it'd be good, even if we had an informational little presentation about what the statute says and what our responsibility is and what we could get out of it as a program.
Be happy to do that.
Thank you.
And I hate to say, I've lost faith in statutory requirements because statutory requirements don't necessarily come with the proper tools, meaning funding and
Yeah.
resources to
You're right.
uphold the statutory. So I hesitate when statutory requirements are thrown in my face. Commissioner Elsing.
I would sooner have the powers to be that are creating the statutory situations to not fund it at the beginning, because I think 80% of them would never go through. The biggest hook is when they're funded and then it quits. And then it's established, and we've seen it, I've seen it over and over and over in government, and even in some private sector things, that there's money out there to get things started and then it dries up and then they fail. So to me, I think it would help decision basis without taking the money out of my other pocket to get it going, and then later on taking it out of this pocket.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and I think I heard a request for additional information at some future point as to the functions of this group. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Passes. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Chafee. Then let's see, I think the next one that I pulled is 7.19. Approve the 2026 CETA Economic Development, page 227. And Ross is here. So we've been paying these, we've been having once a week staff person? Is that
Correct.
understand it?
And they assist with loan application evaluation, asset evaluation for determining loan risk, and then assist with developing the loan documents for executing the loans.
Who's, if I may,
Yeah.
who's
Commissioner
at the heart, who is our, I see Chris Hahn, who I know personally.
Right.
But who is actually our liaison now? It was
Chris-
Dusty.
Krisha,
Tricia.
I'm blanking on her last name right now.
Yes.
Don't remember.
Okay,
HESS.
and is that your question? I question it because that fund is, there's some activity, and not as much as probably there should be. But, you know, when we're paying $32,340 a year, and if my math is right, we divide it by 52 weeks, divide it by an 8-hour day, we're paying $77 an hour for somebody to come in here and do, some paperwork. That's a lot of money per hour. And I have seen some of the smaller communities around. I think I just read something about Rushford or somebody that went down to, once every other week as far as a staff person. So I guess I haven't said on the EDA, and
Okay.
again, coming up in one of the next items, we're looking for dollars and I'm looking for dollars and not totally losing the concept of the work, but trying to trim it back a little bit. When I look at the $77 per hour, that's a lot of money.
For sure.
Yes,
Just,
Commissioner Elsey.
I've had a lot with CETA in the past, just trying to get small community development, Lewiston, St. Charles, Utica, dealing with those things. A lot of these cities are contracting individually on their own to do some of these things.
Mhm.
There's no doubt, like when Dusty was here, she did some stuff, trying to help bring businesses in and grow these communities for not only things that I had going, but for other people who I was trying to help. How many requests are we actually getting that justifies?
I'll let Lou is handling the day-to-day
Yeah.
on that.
I mean, I see a lot of the municipalities taking this on their own. How many
Mhm.
actual county projects is this actually covering? Because I can't imagine it's a whole lot.
Well, at the beginning of the year, we started with over right around $1.2 million in the RLF fund. This year, we've spent that down and closed on 4 loans, and so we have $900,000 out in loans in the community.
But how
now.
many people is that serving? How
Um,
many applications do we see?
Those
And
are
how many projects are we actually serving?
those are four loans to small businesses across the county.
So what's the average cost per loan?
You can go up to $200,000 is the
Well, I'm
maximum
saying,
loan
what is
amount.
our cost to initiate the loan for 4? So we have, how much annually are we spending for CETA? I'm looking at what does it cost the taxpayer per loan to administer that loan, to help gain this loan?
We don't track our.
But I mean, what's the cost of
our
CETA?
time like that? It's
32,000.
$32,000 a year.
32,000, okay.
And
So
then
last year was
some of Lou's time.
32,000, and then some of your time. So
Mhm.
to process 4 loans was, let's just say your time is $8,000. That's $10,000 for administrative cost per loan. Is that arguably correct?
I would, yeah.
Seems exceptionally high.
It
So,
takes a lot of time to process those loans. I can tell you that. When they come through, it's administratively, without the CETA person, even with the CETA rep, I'm spending maybe half of my time, trying to process that loan, and they're putting, and their team.
you're saying half the year trying to process 4 of those loans?
No, like while those are coming through, it probably takes a month to process that loan. And over the course of that month, just the communication between our board, bankers, attorney's office,
Yeah.
and the loan
So a month,
applicants.
4 loans would
bankers.
be 4 months, half your time, so about 2 months of your time to process 4 loans.
I would say so.
So if we say arguably you're $100,000, 2 months out of 12, roughly 20% of your time, so that's 20,000 on top of the 35, so that's 55,000 divided by 4, so we're up to about, give or take, 13,000 a loan. Is that right?
I'll take your numbers.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm
We
looking at
haven't
the
done the math,
cost of
but
the
sure.
program for the value in which is being received and trying to determine, it could be extensive, but is there a way to lower the cost to use these funds? Is this the best case to get those loans processed through CETA? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So,
Or vaguely.
Lou, remind me, so, we only pay, it's a full-time position that's split between different entities. We pay for one day a week. There's Goodview, there's St. Charles. What are the other entities as well?
Who have CETA contracts?
Yep.
It would be St. Charles. It used to be, okay. It was St. Charles, Lewiston, Goodview, and us.
Yep.
As of this year, for next year, it's just going to be us, if the contract's approved, and Goodview. St. Charles is going full-time. They're hiring, they're doing some restructuring in their admin. They're hiring a new administrative assistant, and they're gonna bring on half of that time is gonna be EDA. So they're
Gotcha.
bringing that in-house.
Mhm.
Lewiston had a new administrator, and they let it go, and she was gonna also bring that in-house. I don't know that they've done that, but that was their plan.
And I'm sorry, if I could just
Yep,
finish.
no, that's fine.
The EDA has a number of different bankers on, private sector bankers, et cetera. If any of the other commissioners would like to see how it works, I would invite you to come and attend one of the EDA meetings, especially when one of the loans is being reviewed or approved, et cetera. I sometimes also have been concerned when I look at 1 day a week, how much that costs. And would it be better if we just hired someone part-time, half-time, full-time and get like a better rate per hour or rate per day, et cetera? But I think that right now, considering this is all this contract, right? We don't pay benefits, we don't pay anything else. This is just a private contract. I think that's part of what warps the hourly rate, et cetera.
Oh, we're paying for it. It's
We're
in the,
paying for it, but
it's
we're
in the
also
hour.
paying for a program that allows us to administer loans and grants to businesses that the private sector is also interested in helping support in terms of stopgap financing as well. We're never the first stop on in any business redevelopment or development project. We're just gap financing. I'm in favor of it.
Commissioner Meyer, and then come back. Commissioner Meyer.
So county used to have a full-time EDA person, and that position was eliminated after that individual left. When I was first on EDA, we didn't have loans, really. We'd have like one. Jim, God, what's Jim's last name? He's the
Vercoda.
Yes, Jim Vercoda was the chair, and he's a banker, and he used to take it sort of as his responsibility to market the availability of these loans. And the reason that we initially did the small contract with CETA, since we don't otherwise do any EDA work really at the county, and very little time is allocated for our staff to work on that. Part of the job was going to be to promote it. Because not enough banks, the concept was that it needed sort of continuous promotion of the bank so that lenders knew that it was available, knew that we had money, and would help us to make sure that it got used rather than just sitting there. So from that concept, I supported it, and I believe conceptually, I believe in economic development work and want the county to continue to do some, even though we don't do anything near what we once did. I mean, I see the value of it. So.
Commissioner Elsing.
So the argument is though that if we look at 4 loans last year, if the municipalities are pulling out with the exception of one, but we're asking all the taxpayers to fund this, that really, CETA's not gonna go work in these other communities. They're only gonna work outside of those communities now, correct? They're not going to be part of Lewiston, St. Charles. I'm gonna say our larger municipalities that I guess we could say a larger percentage of the population base was gonna benefit from that, correct?
They'll allow us to coordinate with them, but yeah,
They're
they
not
won't be
gonna
working
actively
for
part of
them
it.
within those
And
communities.
so it's really hard for me to put the same amount of dollars in, and I would argue with the 4 loans that were done, how many of those were in the municipalities and how many of them were out? Were they all out of the municipalities? Was that county related?
It's a mixture. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Somewhere.
So now we look at, and Commissioner Meyer, I know where you were going with that, but I argue that we don't have much staff time. We have, according to Lou, 2 months of staff time of just one individual to process 4 loans. So when we look at what that cost us on the $900,000 evaluation, that's roughly 6%. We look at what a bank charges, it's somewhere between 1/4 and 1%. So we are looking at somewhere between 6 to 24 times the cost to administer a loan through these programs than what a bank would charge to administer the same loan.
Madam Chair.
So that's where it becomes hard for me to say, is this the most efficient way to hire CETA to do something when they have a low impact and an exceptionally high cost to the taxpayer to administer a loan? Could we be doing this a better way? It's just a question. I'm not against CETA. They've helped me out. Is there a better way that we could do this?
Commissioner Meyer.
And so the point was that initially, and I'm assuming still, this individual's only task is not to just administer those loans, it's also to promote those loans. And I know that sometimes depending on what the interest rates are, it is or isn't more attractive. And I don't know what the rate is right now because we had changed it at one point because our rate was too high to be competitive. So I would argue it isn't just processing 4 loans. It's promoting the entire program and making sure that citizens are aware of it and then it gets taken advantage of. And I don't you know, I mean, I don't know about maybe the feasibility of redirecting some of the time to do something else or cutting it in half or whatever you want to do. But this recommendation comes through the EDA.
Mhm.
Yeah, so.
Commissioner Olson.
And Lou, in the past, we have used our funds to help other communities, EDAs, when they were out of funds. So it does help the entire county and the other communities. And I know that we've come full circle with Natalie, and then we've gone down to this, and we've gone down to the 1 day a week, and
I would say that the 1 day a week is kind of the minimum to make it, useful at the county. If you go to 2 days, or 1 day every 2 weeks, it's really not useful for us. It's not enough to like keep them engaged and be doing anything. So, I think it's the minimum if you're going to have a CETA contract to do 1 day a week.
Commissioner.
I just question it. If other municipalities are getting out of it, to me, I'm questioning the value of it and I'm questioning the value of the cost. I'm not against CETA. I honestly am not, but I have to look at the value to my constituents. And I see the value diminishing and I see the costs going up.
Mhm.
Is that something we could do and take that 32,000 and do what the other communities are doing and saying, let's bring it in-house? And can we do something like that? So I think CETA has to prove their value. Chris is a good guy. I know him well. We live several blocks from each other. Kelly's, his wife, is a great person. But ultimately, we have to have the value of what this is. So,
Yeah, I think it's fair to look at, whether we bring it in-house or we contract out. I mean, that's always something that we're constantly assessing, and I think that's fair,
Couple questions.
Talk about-
This whole EDA dollars came from the 2007 floods.
Mhm.
And yes, our rate is high, so it wasn't attractive. It didn't make sense. If you took our rate, you probably didn't have the best business plan if you're going to pay the high rates because our rate was high. How many and part of the problem I see is, okay, we're not the first lender. We're probably third or fourth on the line. So if a loan defaults, chances are, so how many defaults? Have we always collected all the loans that we've put out? Or do we have a default rate that's unacceptable?
Well, I think there's
We
been
don't
a
know.
couple of defaults over the 15 plus
Mhm.
years that we've had the RLF. There's been a couple.
St. Charles was one, wasn't there?
There
one?
was the one in St. Charles for that recycling place out in their
That was
new
probably the
industrial
last
park.
one, I think.
That was in the late
But we
teens.
did, we
19
So
recover
how
from
much-
that
how
because
much
that,
was, yeah, how much
Uh,
was that?
I think we did recover part of that.
Yeah, I mean, they paid
Yeah.
on it for a bit. So once they
Because
defaulted,
they
it
stole
was,
the building and
it
then
was
they got paid
bent
back.
down a
Yeah.
bit.
Right. But there again, I guess I don't know why, if all the banks have all their, they have their checklists and their scrutiny to give them the initial loans. And we're just a little pocket at the end, why it's taking us so long to approve it, not using the bank process and their paperwork. I don't know your process. I've taken out very few loans in my lifetime and nothing with.
Part of it, Marcia, is that I'm not a banker. Neither are the Cedar representatives. We're not bankers. So we're muddling through with our bankers and with,
Bankers
with,
as a committee who are.
we
very
do, but they're not, their job isn't to actually close our loans.
but they're individual.
So we do, it takes a lot of,
Community banks.
a lot of communication.
They survive in this community because they are community banks. Anyway, and I know we have talked about it, and I don't know if we've ever asked if this fund, and again, I think it was statutory, but statutes are, to me, in my opinion, to be challenged. What is the flexibility of that $900,000? Is there something else we can do with it? And I don't know. We've hinted at asking that, but I don't know if anybody's ever asked what we're limited to using that money for. Commissioner Meyer, did
I
you
have
enlighten
been
me?
told in the past that we would need to go back to deed
Mhm.
and ask them permission to do something different.
Right, but I don't know that we ever have. And I mean, I don't know, I guess I would like to know what the flexibility of the money is.
We have been in contact with Deed over the past year. If you remember, we were here a year ago and we had a similar conversation about, because at that time we had a lot more money in the fund. It was like, the conversation was, this isn't being utilized. So how can we utilize this better? And we were looking at different options, and we did go and we have spoken with Deed and got some clarification. It is limited, but it would have to go through deed for approval for anything that we're doing outside of what's in our guidelines. So we'd have to change our guidelines and then, and deed would have to approve that. If you look at the other revolving loan funds that come from deed, there is very strict criteria for that. And so I've used that as kind of ours came from the flood, so it's different. But it's still being used for the same purpose and it's still coming from the same place. So I've used that as kind of a guideline for how these funds would probably be approved and should be used. There is some opportunities for using them for lending to other communities, like other EDAs or other government entities. And I think I would take that, and there is actually within that statute and those guidelines, there's ability to lend to, let's say, a housing authority, like a HRA. And so that's one, like a SEMCRA loan that would go to SEMCRA and they could revolve it within theirs for their
Are
housing
you telling
trust
me
fund,
that's
for example.
allowed, or we have to ask permission to do that?
We would have to ask permission for that, but I think it's something that would be within the realm of possibilities to be approved.
Okay, Commissioner Elsing.
Just first of all, with all the dealings I've had, I don't know if anybody else has with people wanting to establish business, it's common conception to just ask a simple question. Can the government help me? What level of government, right? So awareness of these programs is as simple as I've never met somebody that hasn't asked that question already. And you just go, yeah, talk to the city administrator already knows what's available. Boom. So as far as handing out pamphlets, brochures, and TV commercials for these types of programs, everybody knows there's something there. They just might not know, but there's already somebody in place that can direct them where they need to go. So public awareness of this is very minimal that we need to promote. The biggest thing is that the cost of the program. And one of the questions that I have is when we, and Commissioner Olson alluded to, and I think Commissioner Ward did about, in essence, giving money to other communities for example, let's just say money was given to Lewiston or Utica, whoever. Are they on the hook to pay us back, or is the city, their EDA or however we administer those funds, they're on the hook? So if they lend it out, are we scrutinizing who they lend it out to, or are we putting the city or the municipality or the township or whatever on the hook to pay us back?
They would be on the hook, and in the case of like an EDA, they would be involved with closing those loans. It would be from the city of, let's say, Goodview, if they were to borrow.
Winona County loans Lewiston money, whatever they throw it in a pile and burn it, Lewiston's responsible, not whoever burned the pile.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
That would be correct.
So it's
That would be-
actually a
well,
pretty secure loan.
That's a legal matter.
Right, but you see
yes,
where I'm going, right?
Wait,
But we're
difference
borrowing
between
under the pretense that they have the
Close.
speculation what to do with that
That would
money,
be my understanding.
right? We're borrowing under the pretense, we're not setting the regulation what the money goes towards. We're just simply giving it to them and they're creating their own regulation as it goes. And if there's a default on the loan, it trickles back to that community, not to the individual that borrowed the money from them. So what I'm saying is it's a very secure loan if it's municipality backed. So, yeah.
It should be.
Okay.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So is this $900,000 in an interest-bearing account?
That'd be a question for finance, but I believe that they
Is-
did have that. Yeah.
We are making interest on our,
Yes.
higher than we're lending it out. We're close.
Good.
Commissioner Vega.
Thank you for all the info.
That's
It's
something we
great.
could perhaps call the question of. This, and also.
There is not a vote, there's not a
There's
motion on the
no-
table.
also, I thought you.
No.
I'll make
No.
a motion to approve the
Second.
2026 CETA EDA account. And just a note for my fellow commissioners, we're at 9:45 and we're still in the consent items. I can be here until 12:30. I've cleared my schedule until for a 3.5-hour meeting. So unless the intent is to filibuster, which that's not the intent, just like a time check. But maybe maybe I don't want to kill conversation. Maybe there are some things later on that we need to table or to move somewhere else.
Well, I'm assured you will speedily move the meeting along to meet you.
And I'm sure they.
I know how you do that. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the CETA Economic Development Professional Services Contract. Any further discussion? I would say that I think with this conversation, we have some questions to ask both of our local committee and of deed of what can we do. One thing that does come to mind, and I don't know if it's anything we want to pursue, but I know other counties have taken EDA money. And a few years ago we had, and I don't know if we still have a childcare crisis. the lack of childcare, infant childcare and everything. They actually, renovated existing buildings and turned them into childcare with EDA money. I don't know if that's something that we want to do or even contemplate, but they have used it. They don't just have a revolving loan fund. They use it for other things. And I guess that's where I would ask for some research.
I would be open to also having a conversation about repurposing some part of it if that was agreeable to enough commissioners for perhaps for Semtra.
Yeah, well, something
For
other
housing,
than just a
since that-
revolving
yeah.
loan type, Commissioner.
Well, I think these conversations have come up multiple times over the years and we've addressed them at our board. So
Well, I don't know if we've ever gotten concrete answers.
well,
Yeah, then I
I
think,
think Lou just told you when we've contacted
I
Deep.
mean, you have good questions, maybe put them in writing and then we could discuss it at one of the future EDA meetings.
what
There you
what
go.
can we do with our money? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed, nay? Nay.
Well, for it this time, but it's under scrutiny.
Okay, all right. Then let's see, 7.22, confirm payments and disbursements. And I do apologize. I usually give Ms. Holte a long list and time got away from me and it was a long day. But if you look at the warrants, I just have to stop and question, and maybe we need to look at our process. We have a new finance person, how we pay our bills and what goes on the credit cards and who has authority for the credit cards. A couple items stood out to me real quick in the last group of warrants. We paid 171, well, it's on the warrants, $171.99 for a Greyhound bus ticket to Los Angeles through the RAP program. I didn't know we were sending people to Los Angeles, California on the RAP program. Newspapers, we have, like 4 or 5 newspapers we're paying for subscriptions. A Google YouTube account, and I'm not sure is that for doing our things here. Tools, there were tools, and it was the exact amount, $407.05, 3 times in one very short list. So I don't know what those tools were, but it's odd to have the exact same, and I guess I have to relate to my own personal account. My husband scrutinizes every purchase and makes sure the receipt matches up with the bill on the credit card statement because they can get very large sometimes, and you have to watch them. So I question that. And then there was a software, Absolute Amazon software, $10,800. I have no idea what that's for, but that's a big chunk of change. And then ammo. I mean, do we really go through about $17,000 of ammo? I don't know. I know we have a shooting range. They need to practice and everything. I don't know if that's a year's supply, 2 years supply.
Limited and just.
It just,
Well, deer hunting season.
deer hunting, yeah. Was it rifle or shotgun ammo? I don't know. But
Like you
again,
said-
I don't know our process for people ordering things. And if you got a credit card, even in a personal life, a credit card's easy to whip out and such. And I would ask departments who have the spending authority to stop and think, would I spend my own money on this purchase? And then I know Ms. Holte will get back to me with what these things are, but they just jump out at me and I have to question what it is. And I do really have an issue with software. If it's something software we use, do our neighbors use that same software? And can't we maybe make a joint purchase? I've always felt software is never used to its maximum. More users can use it at a lower, if you have to buy a license or something versus the real, hard software. or what. Yes.
Yeah, don't take away the Google account. I watched the
Is that for watching
I
the
watched the
meetings?
planning commission meeting yesterday just to prepare for
Okay.
one of these
okay.
agenda
And
items today.
And I did not know what that was.
I'm going to move to approve the warrants.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Vagley to approve the warrants. Any further discussion? I do look at them, so I want to let people know I am looking at them, and it does make me kind of nervous how many things are, what we spend our money on. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, approved. All right. Moving in. Thank you for tolerating that, but there's a lot of stuff there that I hope we all learned something about what we're spending our money on. Because we're not spending our money, we're spending our taxpayers' money. And just very little comes out of each one of our individual pockets, but it comes out of our pockets, as Commissioner Elsing reminds us. Okay, moving into 8.1, adopt resolution for the 2026 budget, page 247.
Madam Chair. For the sake of discussion, I will go ahead and move to approve the resolution for the 2026 budget as it was presented in our packet.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Vagley to approve the budget as presented in our packet for revenues of 82,818,698 and expenses at 82,818,698. Discussion. We have a motion. That's Commissioner Meyer and Commissioner Vagley. Discussion. I cannot approve that. It's to me not being fiscally responsible and really taking into consideration all the things we have. So I've asked all along for just two categories in that line item budget, which I don't know the line item budget is just the right tool for us to use to analyze. It's very cumbersome. Ms. Holte and whoever puts the pack together reprint it, but I have no idea what changed in that line item and such. But I did for my own entertainment yesterday. I used the 11/19/2025 printout. That's when I had a hard copy of. So I sat down with that. And my pet peeve has always been professional services and supplies. I feel it's kind of like the black hole of the county government and not knowing the individual breakdown. But when I added up the professional fees and services, there were 65 line items in the budget, and that totaled $5,994,643. That's a big black hole to me. $6 million. And then, so I went through supplies. Almost every department has a line for supplies. Now, again, I don't know what's that, paper, pencils, cleaning supplies, whatever. But there was 61 line items in the budget. And that totaled, I was surprised, it wasn't as much as I thought. That was $543,357. Again, there's a lot that goes in there. I don't know. I could buy a lot of paper and pens or cleaning supplies. I'm not sure what each department puts in as quote supplies. I don't think it's computer software or any of those things. I can't tell you exactly what's in there, but I think those two items alone, and then just, we haven't cut anything. I'm sorry, people. Have we? We've rearranged the dollar sum. We've rearranged some people. Now I did question in the environmental services, it said in the meeting minutes that one half-time person became a full-time person, but then Ms. Holte shared that we actually reduced 1.6 persons and such overall, which I didn't realize that we hadn't done. But then I have to listen to last meeting, one of our electeds, Chelsea Wilbright, put in a plea that her department is probably, I don't know if it's understaffed, if it's lack of training or lack of knowledge of the systems or what the combination is. But when we again, you talk about statutory, you talk about mandates, one of the biggest jobs we do is put out tax statements. And we didn't get out tax statements in time for some of our citizens to meet their local cities' truth in taxation. That's problematic to me. Now, what the resolve to the problems are, I don't know. I've heard, well, we need new software. Well, we spent a lot of money again on Tyler software for our tax calculations, and I'm not ready to abandon it and buy something new shiny out of the box that has the same problems or because Tyler is used by a number of counties. So when we have those kind of expenditures, but then later on in our agenda, I guess it's like 8.8 through 8.29, we're giving away some, I call it a giveaway. It's philanthropic giving of taxpayer dollars. A couple on that list are statutory requirements, but the bulk and the majority of them are not. When we can't provide our taxpayers with current accurate tax statements, we're failing people, but yet we're giving money to private nonprofits, not to say they don't do good work, but it's not a mandated, it's not a core function. I think we need to readjust our budget somehow to address our tax preparation, that our citizens depend on it. And if we can't trim some of this professional services and some of the supplies, those are just two items that I pick out that were easily to tabulate. So I would like to see us get that budget down into a much more reasonable. And I think I came up with about, I'd like to get it down to about 25 to 26 million, down to about a 5% levy, not this 12 point.
10.9.
10 point.
10 point, yeah.
Commissioner Ward. I just,
Mr. Elsing.
so Commissioner Ward had called and asked me about the situation with the taxes, and one of the things that I said, just looking at the way I've tackled problems in the private sector in the past, was and then immediately running through and hiring somebody. Now, this doesn't allude to the contract services point that you brought up, but oftentimes you got to spend a little money to figure out what a problem is. So one of the things that I had brought up was, okay, if it's surely a staffing situation, oftentimes there's a lot of things that can happen in those situations. And sometimes our $100 an hour people are doing $5 an hour jobs because somebody has to do it, or maybe that's what they do to fill their time, whatever that might be. So one of the things that I brought up was not to immediately turn to looking to hire somebody, but is there a way, just the same as we do in our business, we rely on our accountants to pick up the slack for a certain amount of things that can happen internally. So is there a means to get to the bottom, get somebody caught up, and then we look at potentially having to bring somebody in if that position is severely understaffed? It's going to allow us to really determine what the true problem is before we go out and hire somebody. So that was just my 2 cents on that. So there clearly is something happening in that department. I also can't support this for a multitude of different reasons. We look at everything that's been thrown at us, and I look at businesses, I look at farming right now, I look at all that stuff, and it just, at some point, we have to say no. At some point, we just can't fund everything out there that looks like a good idea, is a good idea. At some point, the constituent says these might be great opportunities or they might be good things, but we have to figure out a different way. The second side is that I go back to what we said before. We oftentimes get thrown a very small portion of what we deal with, and then we scrutinize that to death. And without looking at the other 60, $70 million that's on the board. I realize that we've had some tough obstacles with health insurance and things like that. But, I go back and say, if we would have looked at every department and just set the precedent that there is no moving forward. In fact, there's a 5% reduction to cover the cost of what it takes to have a job. Would that have set the precedent different on the ask and forced every department to really scrutinize? Because the way it's set up right now, I feel as though it's kind of business as usual, and then we're just taking the ask that everybody has and whittling that down to slightly less than 50% and saying, hey, we did a good job. Some of these things are good, eliminating people and things like that, but I don't think it's enough to appeal to the taxpayer. And with the continuance of all the taxes, I think the pencil's just got to get sharper somehow, and we got to figure out where that comes from. Thank you. I didn't realize you had wrote down everything on the supplies. I just did a mental note, scrolling through that, and I roughly figured it was around $500,000. And it's something that I had brought up too, just taking something as simple as that and really finding out, is it a black hole or not? And somebody brought it up to me, and I'm just going to say this as a voice for them. If we cut 10% out of government, would everything shut down? I said, no, it wouldn't all shut down. Would you see a few things different? Yeah. Well, how much would that affect me? I didn't have an answer because it's all relative to the services in which he receives. So at the end of the day, I think, we have to cap this thing to a certain extent to make it palatable to the public. And, where that money's come from, that's why there's people getting paid a lot more money than I am to sit here to figure that out. So.
Commissioner Meyer.
Thanks. I'm going back to the packet that we had. This is back in October, our second meeting. And so Commissioner Ward made this comment, well, we haven't cut any. I'm going to say, not true. So our health insurance increased $1 million. Our salaries increased $2 million. $250,000 for the Minnesota Paid Family Leave Act. $350,000 increase in what the Department of Corrections said we needed to pay. $1 million in capital requests. $250,000 to make up for the cuts in SNAP. and there are a few more items. So our staff and administration have cut over 2 million in order to make up for those shortfalls. And so I think they've done a great job of trying to meet the initial demand. Do I think that this is too high of a levy increase? Yes, of course. Do I think that we have been dealt a set of circumstances from the state and federal government that has shifted cost onto us and made that even more difficult? I do. But I think our staff has done a great job. And I do want to tell a story. I'll try to anonymize it as much as make it as anonymous as I can. But a constituent, actually a family member of a constituent called me during the summer and was upset. The story is really about an elderly couple. They're in my district. They've lived, worked, raised their kids in our community. And they're both in their 80s. One of them's been suffering with some dementia issues, and the other one has stepped up to be the caretaker. But the caregiver part of the couple is failing now, and so they'd been spending some of their own money to try and get some help to be able to stay in their home. And this family member called me. They were exasperated and angry because they had come to the county asking for a help in July. And we're told the soonest that they would get services and an assessment for services was going to be March or April of next year, because that is the amount of time that it takes for us based on our staffing levels and the complexity of the products that we have that the state has given us to help people. Now, the individual has had some more degradation in their abilities, and the family member felt like this is now a dangerous situation. So I think for us to say, oh, well, if the federal government's going to push more administrative requirements on us, but we're not going to fulfill that, we're just going to go with our current spending level, we're going to make what is already a difficult situation, an inadequate situation, worse. And part of the reason that I wanted to run for county board is because the services that the county delivers directly affects my neighbors and the most vulnerable people in our community. And I want us to be able to deliver those services. So I do support this budget. Now, to Commissioner Ward and Commissioner Elsing's thoughts. You know what? I am totally open to scrutinizing the budget, and I don't find much value in that line item report. Those spreadsheets that Administrator Holte showed us, I think 2 meetings ago, that do some summary and then categorize the services that we provide by what is mandatory, what is discretionary, what is a core function of this department, and how much does each of those cost? How much are we paying with the levy? You know, how much are we paying for reimbursements that come from the other government entities? I think that will give us a terrific ability to do some of the detail level scrutiny that you guys are asking for and that I totally support. And we are going to start that right after the first of the year. Am I right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I definitely want to take a number of the steps that you've talked about. But I also feel like, I think Commissioner Vagley said this last year, that you may see this, Commissioner Ward and Elsing, as outrageous, but this is already a compromise. And I really do want us to be able to provide services. And that is the tension between efficiency and taxes is one that we all live with. And I thank you for everyone in our staff. I thank you for your work on the budget.
Thank you for that. There's 2 documents that we need to take a serious look at, and it was provided, it was inventory of mandates, core functions, and other service functions.
That one, yes,
Yeah.
that one.
Yes. And we need to put page numbers on it, or maybe they got cut off.
And
when
we need to do
printed it.
all departments.
Yes, yes, because like,
Most of them are blank right now.
yes, and there's a lot of Ys and Ns in the, is it mandated or not? And I think that's a tool that we need to look at to start with. Because like it just very quickly, it's the statewide health improvement program. Again, it's showing that we're spending quite a bit of taxpayer dollars to make that. It is a major grant. They talk about language interpreter. Now, I don't know if that's in just one certain area, but you can go down this list and there's a lot of Ys and Ns. And I think we need to scrutinize and use this as a tool to condense. Because if we start this year with $82,818,698, that's an increase base. What are we going to start with next year, Ms. Holte? Are we going to start at the $82,818,698 as a base and then build from that? It seems like it's almost like the wage comparison. Oh, I'm getting X and I need 3% more. So here we've started at, okay, if we go to this say $83 million, what are we going to use as our base next year? And maybe you got a plan to change something, but if we keep starting with that original base, it's just going to keep growing. And I don't know, and I know you provided us a chart one time of the last, 15, 20 years, what our levy increase has been. There was 1 or 2 times when it was like 0 and 1. But even if you start at 0, are you starting with the base of 83 million? I mean, that's my fear. It just keeps growing exponentially. Where do we stop and draw the line? We know it's all going to get worse. The federal government is doing lots of things. The state government's doing lots of things. So we know it's only going to get worse, but how can we keep perpetuating the problem? So the question is, okay, and we'll start that process real soon. What do we start with for 2027? Ms. Holte?
Commissioner Olson was before me.
In conversations I've had with our administrator, I know that we face a dire consequence next year. That budget and levy is going to have a tremendous amount of pressure on it. So to answer your question, there's no, I mean, the tide is rising. So, and this is the answer that we have to come up with. I do appreciate, I do a lot of the purchasing for Houston County for supplies, janitorial supplies. The toilet paper I buy is the best deal I could find, and we use the same amount, but the price has increased because everything's increased. So I could break it down to just supplies like that, and I'm very I keep a very small inventory on hand of all my supplies just because why keep it in our storeroom when we can keep it in their warehouse. So I do know that as an employee of another county in my small little department and how I add to the budget that I do, I really look at our purchases closely, and to some of my coworkers and staff would say I'm too cheap because they want a certain product and I won't do it. So I trust the employees that are making these decisions are doing so with the utmost outlook on cost and availability and consequence. So
The question I have is, do you purchase the toilet paper for the whole county or just the jail?
the whole county.
Okay.
I don't do the jail. Jail's separate because they use a better grade of toilet paper in the jail than we do for the employees. So
Figure, yeah. So you do, I mean, again, we've talked about this many years ago of having a supply system. And I don't know that we ever did that where, yes, one person would control how many pens or pencils how many, rolls of toilet paper do we buy? And my fear is that we've got multiple people buying multiple things at maybe not the best price. It's just, it's easy to, I hate to say it, it's easy to flip that credit card out there. We buy a lot of things on Amazon, which you have to trust is usually one of the better resources. But again, I don't know that, but thank you. Ms. Holte.
Commissioners, as I've shared at previous meetings, the intent is for us to start working in January to have the data for you so that you can have an understanding of what it costs for the services and programs. We're going to break it down to the best ability that we can. That takes time for the leadership to do that. It's a work in progress, but the intent is so that we can have conversation about what things do you as the board, want to continue doing as discretionary spending? And at what level do you want to provide the services that are mandated? That's in a nutshell what we're gonna have to talk about. Yes, we are going to continue to focus on where can we generate revenue? Where can we fine tune expenses? But the discussion to put us in a better position for 2027 is the prep we're gonna do in the first quarter of 26. Because we have to make decisions the first quarter in order to implement and have the impact that you need for 2027's budget. So that's the intent.
Okay, Commissioner Bagley.
I'll try to be brief. This is what tax breaks for billionaires and the ultra rich looks like. The tax cuts get, the buck gets passed from the federal government to the states and the states to the counties. And the counties should not and cannot and should not pass the buck to cities or townships. Matter of fact, I think the only real increase that we're seeing is an increase to soil and water. That's, instead of passing the buck, we're actually investing in that program because of the returns and how it impacts people in rural Winona County. I also agree with the issue of unfunded mandates. The Minnesota African American Family Preservation Act is a great intent.
Good job saying it.
That's not even all of it. There's still the second half that was added later on. I don't have that. But yes, we
It's
need,
being scrutinized.
yeah, we need to ask all of us need to ask our elected officials to either fund it or get it off of our backs. Because that's an example of what happens when you pass the buck, and the county is the last line of defense. We are where the rubber hits the road, where people we need to be accountable. In the 1970s, Minnesota, this is the Minnesota Miracle. This is not the hockey team. This is not 1980, the hockey team. This is the 1970 Minnesota Miracle. Led to a big change because property taxes were increasing so much. What they did with conservatives in power was lead to a shift in towards more funding coming from the state level. Property tax is the worst kind of tax by far. So I hope that we can continue to put pressure on our state and federal elected officials to stop passing the buck down to local government, because that has a big impact on us. And it forces us to make decisions that are penny wise and pound foolish. There's a difference between being cheap and being fiscally conservative and fiscally intelligent, et cetera. And one of our goals is effective and efficient services, and just cutting for cutting's sake. There's always room to be trimmed for sure and to be fine tuned. But sometimes we need to be careful about being penny wise and pound foolish. So I'm going to vote in favor of the levy. I'm sorry, of the budget amount, and then the levy, which is the next item at 10.96. I'll stop there.
Okay, I do have a question on the capital improvement plan. That's part of this motion. How do we, as the year goes on, how do we scrutinize what we're really going to spend and if the money's available to do these capital improvement projects? One of the big ones that comes to mind is I've got several citizens that are concerned about a major road project we're trying to do. And if in that particular, we get bids, so we know what it'll cost us, not unlike the Health and Human Service where we have no idea what some program's going to cost us. How do we, do we have the authority, or how do we insert the authority to say, no, we don't have enough money to do these things? It's just like this courthouse roof. You know, if we're gonna bond for it, that $3 million roof will cost us $6 million by the time we get done paying any kind of bond or anything. So where and when do we have the authority to say, let's reevaluate, where's the money coming from? Do we have the money to do these projects? Ms. Holte.
So this is one of your opportunities, is as approving the capital projects
Right.
for the next year.
Yep.
Another opportunity would be the direction to have each one come before the board for approval prior to implementation. So I mean, that is
I'll
within
support
your
that.
discretion.
I'll support that.
Okay, I think the public deserves that, and I think we deserve that, because this is a very massive, list. Circumstances, conditions change, priorities change. So do we need to make that just as a policy
I would appreciate a direction, you know, a majority of the board providing that direction for me to move forward with.
Okay, what's the feelings on the board? Do we want to put a dollar amount to it or just anything on the capital improvement plan that we have a final vote on the item? I mean, and it can come in on consent or general, and it always can be pulled, and that way we get the question and actually look at the, you know, if we're getting bids.
Why I
and
like the
things like that.
consent. you know,
Pardon me?
The ability to do that and pull specific things, yeah.
Commissioner Bagley, I see that head nod.
I think that just to be clear, so what we're asking the county administrator to do is to put any and all capital improvements for, I mean, we do that.
Any capital items
Okay.
have to come before the board, even though it's in the budget,
Plan, yeah,
Sure.
is what I'm understanding.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Commissioner
all,
Olson?
So it leaves you the discussion to say yes or no.
I mean, we do it with roads and bridges already. That already happens.
Right.
And the courthouse roof is a whole conversation.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
that's
talking
right.
about everything.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sure.
If that is usually a significant item in somebody's budget and changes. Okay, so you have direction on that, Ms. Holte?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. That's,
Just with
Yeah.
that conversation, I think it's important, that we have a good understanding of certain capital improvement things. And I'm gonna give another example for my current, employer. I had some boilers, in the budget this year. So the boilers I have, I can no longer get parts for. So they were cut out of the budget, and to my aggravation, but we're gonna sit and we have to get parts made to fit these boilers at a great expense just to keep them operating. And, so just as a caution, penny wise, pound foolish, sometimes the decisions to cut certain things, end up costing you money in the long run. And if it's January and 10 below, I sure hope those boilers are still working.
well, it's not the intent to necessarily cut, but to give some discretionary thought to.
It's good conversation to have.
Yeah.
But you have to know
It's
that
amazing with these 3D printers, how many parts you can make nowadays.
I'm
It is.
getting one made for $4,500.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean,
$1,000 part last year.
But our manufacturers, right, things get old and worn out and they're just not gonna keep parts on the shelf. I know. Okay. All right, so we got the capital improvement plan. I guess the question is in January, you didn't answer the question. In January, when we start looking at the budget, are you assuming an $83 million budget and you're gonna build off of that? Or where's our starting point? Do we have a starting point to start the next year's discussion?
I would say we do not have a starting point because we have to evaluate everything. So
Okay.
basically looking from the ground up.
Okay, right. And the one unfortunate part, and talking with a lot of citizens, is when we send out the tax statements, it's not necessarily the county that's the biggest increase. Our school districts are asking for a lot of money. Our cities are asking for a lot of money. And then it gets down to my dear sweet little township is pretty conservative, but then again, the amount of services that are required at a township level are minimal. But it's the total. And of course, I've offered for school districts or cities to send them out and we'll pay the postage, but they don't seem to want to take that over. It's part of our obligation. All right, so we had a motion and a second to approve the budget by, I'm sorry,
Meyer and Bagley.
Meyer and Bagley. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, 3-2. All right. Then moving into 8.2 is page 355 to adopt the resolution for the 2026 levy. Commissioner Ellison.
I make a motion to adopt a levy for 3.5%.
I'll second that for discussion. How do you get us there?
How do we get us there? Yeah, that's the challenge. And there's a lot of outside agency funding. There's a lot of things internally that I don't think have been fully scrutinized. I brought it up before. It's doing the math on what Commissioner Meyer talked about, the savings that we had. If you deduce that into an $82 million budget, that's 2.5%. So we found 2.5% to get rid of, and we're asking to bring on another 11%. So in reality, the true cost to the taxpayer is right around 13.5%. Because the 2.5% is what I brought up last year. Are you sure we're running at 100% efficiency? And the answer is no, we found 2.5% to get rid of. So, I asked the same question again. Are we running at full efficiency? I look at the ag industry right now, and there are no options for ag people to get out of what they're in right now. There's no option for me as an ag business to get out of what we're in right now. I have to let people go. I have to scrutinize everything. I have to limit our ability to do things. I have trucks on the road that have 250 to 300,000 miles on pickups because we can't replace them. It's not kicking the can down the road. It is simply the money isn't there. I can't go out and just take it from somebody to replace that. So I will have some $1,000 fixes that are now going to be a little more expensive long term, but we cost average them out to stay in business. And I still say government should be run. I've asked this question multiple times to multiple people. Do you feel government should be run like a business? And overwhelmingly, yes. And so if we're faced with those challenges as business owners, if a family is chased with paying the increase in all these taxes, they can't demand from their employer that they get a raise to cover them. So I still think there's room for improvement. I don't have all the answers. This information I know is coming, but I think sometimes, like I said, like somebody else said, if I cut 10% out of government today, how would I be affected? The reality of it is I think the roads are still going to get plowed. I think we're still going to have the same amount of security with our jail and with our police force. Things might look a little bit different, but we're still going to be able to provide services that we need. They might not be perfect, but I can't do business perfect either in this type of situation. So I think it's there. I think it's justifiable. I think it's palatable for the taxpayer at this point to understand that there will be some sort of an increase. But I just think year over year over year, these types of things are just not being, it causes scrutiny to the public eye. And so that's where I sit.
Okay, any other discussion? I think I brought up most of my points in the first conversation. Okay, we have a motion to set the 2026 levy at 3.5%. We'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay.
A,
Okay, motion fails. Commissioner Meyer?
Nope.
Oh, Commissioner Vagley.
I'll make a motion to approve the levy to be set at what's included in the agenda packet, 10.96%, 10.96%.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Vagley, second by Commissioner Meyer to set the levy at
9-6.
10.96. Further discussion? I think we made all the points. It's not to say that we can't try and save money. Every dollar we manage doesn't belong to us. It belongs to somebody else. And it doesn't belong to the state of Minnesota, and it doesn't belong to the federal government. It belongs to the people living in the land and such. So we have to honor that, I think. And the only way we can get taxes down is if we don't spend so much money. And I've said, I think we have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And I think we need to learn to say no and set boundaries. We just can't, in my opinion, we cannot keep nodding our head to everything that everybody wants and doesn't want, or nod to the spending and not the cuts. So again, I can't support that kind of levy. I apologize to my constituents who have called me. They know I'm trying to get it down to a manageable amount, and they understand that. I still feel very bad that that's what it is. And I do encourage everybody to take advantage. When we send out the statements in the spring, the actual statements in the spring, for everybody and anybody to apply for that special refund on property taxes.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, that's just the county. You can't take, I don't think you can do the school or the cities. Maybe that's a separate thing. Ours is and I'm unclear.
Property tax.
I'm thinking it applies to the whole package.
Does it apply? And we need clarity on that because like I said, school districts are taking one of the biggest chunks out of everybody's. So I encourage everybody to apply for that because I think that hits the state of Minnesota. That doesn't affect us greatly. Not to say that it won't at some point in time.
Causes a redistribution.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I encourage everybody to do that and we have those forms readily available. Commissioner Bagley.
And thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Ward. Ms. Hulte, it's on the county webpage if people want to find out, because some people are definitely being hit disproportionately.
Mhm.
And the increase is all over the board.
Right.
I mean, when we used to do this, when Commissioner Ward and I first began, it was just a matter of practice that to look like what it would look like about the impact on different county commissioners. So they would literally put our stuff up on the board. So I asked the county auditor, if it's public information, can I see what the impact is? It's all the way at 1.2%.
There's something wrong there. Checking into that.
13% in terms of, but it definitely impacts some people a lot more. So there is a way, if it's over 12% or at least $100,
Right.
that there is a way.
And
to
no
get-
income
Yep,
restrictions.
to get a tax abatement, tax refund on some of those. So
It's called a special,
Yep.
special refund.
so thank you for bringing that up. It's on the county main webpage. If anyone wants more information, contact any of us. We can direct you to that thing. Bring that up.
Okay,
Because it definitely does impact some people more than others.
yes.
One of the big things
Yeah.
too, being in the business of trying to help people out with housing, of course, there's got to be some sort of return. But, I've been asked this question several times. People understanding I'm a county commissioner now, but also prior to being mayor and different things, about taxes. And I said, absolutely. When you vote for a tax increase, that's why your rent goes up, because we pass that on. We have to pass that on.
Mhm.
So when you look at the affordable aspect of wanting to fund, affordable housing, but then turning around and raising taxes, that just gets passed on. And a lot of people don't think about that it has a direct impact on people that probably don't have the ability to absorb some of this.
So we have a motion to set the levy. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. Okay. Motion passes. Okay. Do we want to just take a quick 2-minute break?
So the auditor treasurer sent us a link where you can download the entire data set of taxes from the state. And it goes back, I don't know, I was only interested in last year, but I did download the entire data set and then pulled out Winona County and started looking, because interestingly enough, what's on there is our portion, the township portion, the school district, and the city of Winona. And then it comes down in the end to an actual tax rate after all the exclusions and exceptions, which was pretty fascinating. I had some questions about it that I wanted to talk to Chelsea about, but it's not a rigid thing, so.
It's interesting looking at the property tax proposed statements. Commissioner Olson had the largest increase at 13 points.
Pretty fancy improvements at his house, though. Maybe he didn't show you the pictures.
Then I had the second largest increase at 11.4, 8.8, 7.5, 1.2%.
I replaced a garage is what I did. I don't know how fancy that is.
It's a living space, though, isn't it?
The garage, no.
Oh, my
In that
goodness.
case, it's your assessment, but it is interesting, the range of percent.
Car lives there.
Your car lives there?
Car, I mean, not mine. Fortunately,
You were
mine's still parked.
expecting
mine's still
Stacy to
parked on the
come
street.
live with you, come move.
Yes, that was my dowry.
I'll fix up the house if you come marry me.
Yeah.
And
You know,
it clearly worked, so.
I had a question for Chelsea the other day. This was interesting. So I have a friend that has a duplex. He has 10 college students living there.
Yeah.
So when the college students go for they get their certificate of rent paid and then they apply for a reimbursement. Where does that money come from? They get like 2.5 times what he pays in property taxes back and reimbursement.
Reimbursement?
Yes,
Oh,
and it comes out of the state general fund.
does it? not our
Doesn't affect us locally at all, but it does cost the state money.
I
So-
wonder if they're trying to make up for the fact that rental owners don't get a property, the homestead exclusion.
That's where the money comes from though, so.
Yeah.
I got the email and going, what, really?
Are you the city, you're in the city of St. Charles, aren't you?
As far as my residence?
Yeah. When I asked for this used to be when we first started, I looked at all 5 of the commissioner's properties. It looks like you have ag land, but you must have a bigger lot or something.
I don't have ag land.
Okay.
I took, really? You looked at that? I took the biggest hit?
As a percent increase.
You're welcome, all of you.
13
Wow.
point.
Property that's considered industrial ag, but I don't have ag land.
Okay,
My family does, but I know.
But your address is City of Winona, right?
mine, yes.
Yeah.
Mine was 11.46%.
326. I can't hardly write 2025, let alone 2026.
That's always confusing after the change.
Yeah.
I pay more in taxes than the average median household.
I'm sure you do, because you own commercial real estate.
Oh,
right?
that is the thing. The commercial rate is at 2% and residential's 1 or something.
Yeah, I think Chelsea sent out the tax.
That's, yes,
That's absurd. That many categories. She sent that document.
I wouldn't disagree with you.
Yeah, that is absurd. But anyway. Okay, we'll go back into the session here. We're on 8.3, adopt the 2026 fee schedule. And that was presented to us last meeting. And I don't know, were there any other changes? I mean, it was redlined back then. I don't know, were there any other changes, Ms. Hulte, do we know?
So what we did is we have the fee schedule that was presented at the December 11th meeting, and then we also have included in the packet the one that was completed in April of 2025.
Yep.
And the logic for including both of those is that the cannabis fees were overlooked or left
Oh,
out
we're
of.
in there?
Right,
Okay.
of the one that was in the December 11th. So we will do the public hearing in January and have all of it done to include the cannabis fees again, just to make it official. It was
So
an
do we-
oversight.
Do we adopt this or not
Yes,
adopt it or
We
table?
do.
We do adopt this
Yes.
and then with.
And then
point-
you'll do a public hearing and adopt a new one in January.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I'll move to adopt the 2026 fee schedule.
Okay,
I'll second that.
a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Vagley to adopt the 2026 fee schedule with the caveat that we will be readdressing this in early 2026 to
Yes.
put the cannabis in there. Okay. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay. Okay, approved. Then 8.4, approve resolution designating transportation sales projects, 385. And that is, I don't think there's been any changes to what
No,
Uh,
Madam Chair, there's
engineer.
no changes.
attorney
Same.
or engineer. Okay.
I'll move to approve item 8.4.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Vagley, second by Commissioner Elzing to adopt 20, transportation sales projects. The only thing I have there is, I guess, like I said, I got that one major road in my district that people are questioning. I guess once the bids come in, we'll have an idea if it's, and that would come back to the board to approve with our
Yes,
capital improvement plan. Okay,
we need
Right.
more information.
yeah, okay, all right. All those in favor of adopting the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, approved. All right, 8.5, conduct public hearing to amend and approve revised cannabis registration ordinance. Good morning, Mr. Dunsmore.
Good morning. As the state's rollout of the cannabis program has evolved, it has been communicated to us that we need to register low potency hemp edibles, which was not an original provision that we had provided for. So the amendment before you includes provisions for registering low potency hemp edibles, adds a definition for low potency hemp edible retailers, clarifies some of the other definitions and some of the processes in submittals for special event cannabis events. Mr. Kranz had gone through this and just with everything that has involved, we've clarified the language. But the driving factor is we need to be prepared for the new year to be able to register low potency hemp edible retailers.
And we have no control over the cities in our,
Correct.
this is just a rural.
Unless they have delegated that to us.
Yes, okay.
This
Okay.
is just a public hearing, not gonna make a motion.
Well,
And approve.
And
And
approve.
approve.
And approved. Okay, so we need a motion.
I move to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Vagley to open the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, public hearing is open. Is there anyone wishing to address the Winona County Board concerning the revised cannabis registration ordinance? Nobody in-house? Anybody online want to address the Winona County Board concerning the cannabis registration ordinance? I'm seeing nobody. Okay, so there would be a motion to close.
One more time.
One more time.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Is there anyone else wishing to address the county board about the revised cannabis registration ordinance? Okay,
Motion to close public hearings.
I'll
that.
second. Oh,
okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Elzing, second by Commissioner Vagley to close the public hearing. So the red line is the changes.
should we vote?
Oh, yeah, to close, I'm sorry, to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, public hearing is closed. So we're being asked to adopt all the changes were highlighted in red. Okay,
I'm just looking for cross, Phil, what do we need to be concerned about?
Really, this is administrative. The ordinance also provides for the transfer of day-to-day duties for the registration of cannabis to the Planning and Environmental Services Department to take that off of auditor treasurer. Being that we need to do the zoning reviews for any type of registrations, and we also have the access to the state Acela system, which is where we report to Office of Cannabis Management. It just seemed to be some additional duplication that we could simplify the process. So-
it doesn't directly relate to this, but we approved the operation in Dresbach, and there hasn't been any real activity. How long are these permits for? Is it a one-year time or is it a lifetime permit, or is there a sunset on the permit?
Well, the state licensing would be separate than
This.
than our approvals. So our CUPs, if it obtained a CUP or if it was a permitted activity, would not have a time limit
No deadline.
unless it was an interim
A
permit.
CUP or IUP, yeah.
Yeah, unless it was an interim permit, which I
Yeah.
don't believe that we've issued any interim permits for.
No,
that.
that was this.
But I mean, I think that part of the issue has been the state has been pretty slow and then there wasn't product available and like, so.
Yeah, and they keep changing the rules.
But
Commissioner
correct me if
Elder?
I'm wrong, if we're only issuing a certain amount of permits, right?
Right.
So definitely if somebody applies, has the permit, and then never actually carries through with the project, correct? That's the sunset aspect of following up. Did you actually do what you said you're gonna do? Because we're only granting a certain amount. So should we be looking at ensuring that people are actually, otherwise somebody could arguably file for conditional use permits, tie the whole market up, have one and
Forever.
they got it, right? And not do anything else. And under 3 different entities, I can create very easily business mindset, create 5 LLCs. I can hide who's in charge of them and off we go, right? I mean, that's easy to do. So, I'm just making a point.
Should make a
Should there be
review.
some sort of a sunset to ensure that the projects are going through because we do have a limited amount?
You know,
I don't know.
I mean, you would need to
Right.
check. My memory, which could be bad, is that upon sale, it goes to, I thought it was an IEP.
I guess I don't remember.
State licenses can't be transferred without state approval.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking about the permit that, it's a conditional use, right? So they would have to
it
get
would-
an IEP or CUP from us?
This
Yes, the one in
CUP,
Dresden
Eric
did.
can correct me,
There
usually
was-
that would go with the property.
Right,
Yeah,
but if
go
it
ahead.
was,
That stays with the property.
yeah, but if it was an IEP and it ended on sale, but do you remember, Eric?
Yeah, I believe, the one we're talking about, it has been slow moving because we haven't had any action. They haven't cleared their state approvals. That would be our indication that they're going ahead, but I believe it was either late 2023 or early 24 when we issued that, it was a conditional use
Yeah,
permit. So
because
it
it
doesn't
goes with the
apply.
land, yeah.
Correct. There you go.
That's-
I like the idea of making one of the conditions at some kind of time, some kind of.
Yeah, maybe we need to review what our.
That just,
timeline on-
it stops the stagnant or stalemate because there is only a certain amount that are gonna be.
Right. Okay, okay,
I'll make a
So-
motion to, I'm sorry. go ahead.
yeah, go, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised cannabis, registration.
Second.
ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Bagley, second by Commissioner Olson to approve the revised cannabis registration ordinance. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, approved. Thank you. All right, 8.6, receive presentation from the Leonard's findings of fact and petition for amendment and conduct public hearing. Eric,
Hey. This is follow up with the planning commission from last month. And, maybe Heidi I have, in your packet, there was a group of PowerPoint slides and I'll just touch on those and then I'll answer any questions you might have. This action is to essentially do some housekeeping in the St. Charles Township area. We have had a couple of petitions this late fall in that area, one involving this property. Mainly there was variances to ask for relief from setbacks from the road. And there was also setback variance that was on the adjacent property, I believe the seed business that's adjacent to this. And then researching county records and also our GIS beacon system, we recognize that there were some abnormalities that existed. So this action is to essentially reflect the desire of the property owners. Beacon currently is depicting this area as agricultural as well as adjacent property. And going back and researching the records back to 2001, that both those properties are actually commercial B. And I think that is the desire for the seed business, the Heim property, to keep that in that manner. But on the flip side is this 1 acre parcel, which I believe is still zoned commercial, but we need to revert that back to agricultural because of the adjacent landscape and the desire of the property owner. So this action in front of you today is to change two things. It's to change the zoning map officially to agricultural and to change the comprehensive plan back from rural residential service to agriculture. The way that we have it phrased in the public noticing, there are those two paragraphs, as you see. I won't read them, but that's essentially the heart of this action, is to do those two things. We did conduct a public hearing at the planning commission level, received no comments. If we could go ahead with the slide, just kind of maybe flip through these quick. Actually, what we're looking at, that little snippet, is actually the Winona County Comprehensive Land Use Map. That's still the official document. It goes back to 2001. It's hard to see, but if you were to, that's part of the issue we got into. It was such a small area delineated that you can't see it. But if you were to actually dissect that and look at the data records, it would be that blue category, rural residential service. So we'd keep that for the commercial zone property with the seed, the enterprise, but the one next to it, the one that is moving forward with a proposed improvement, we need to convert that back to agricultural. Again, it's the section 20, and then this is right along Highway 14. Next slide. The 1 acre parcel is kind of a T-shaped one, and some of the reasons that were brought forward is that this is a remnant of an old railroad that was in that area, and that was documented in the staff report. I believe it was the Minnesota or the Winona St. Peter, and then it went on to Chicago Northwestern, then it was vacated, so that's why we have an irregular shaped.
MinDOT has made some improvements with 14, and they were asked for comments all along the way. Next slide.
I'm sorry, Eric, before you leave though, the tan on that slide, so you got the green, that's what we're talking about turning back to ag.
Mhm.
The tan in front of that is still,
This is all right away.
oh, it's just right away.
State highway.
Okay, it's not
14.
buildable, you can't put houses in there.
No.
Okay,
In fact, the diagram that's up there is showing the setback variance request at the time. They were asking for 80 feet instead of the required 130 feet.
For the T
Oh.
part.
Yep.
Uh-huh,
And then
okay.
the buildings located to the west are actually closer
Yeah.
than what they wanted to build
okay.
this
So it's,
specific building.
it's not a buildable parcel, and then what, the state of Minnesota or the railroad still owns that?
No, the state, it's part of the right away. But the T parcel is,
Private.
being developed, I guess. There's a permit that's been issued for the building, and it will actually have, occupancy. It'd be kind of an apartment set, so it is, proposed to be a residential too.
But under the ag district rules.
Yes, yes, that's the intent.
Thank
Next,
you.
next slide. And this is just a beacon diagram, if I could touch on that. This would be commercial, and then it is flanked by city of St. Charles property, but then it's also has ag properties next to it. I believe there is poultry operation, and there's a driveway there, so.
That, you said that T section that Mark owns. You said that's currently, isn't it currently ag now?
If you look on Beacon, on the county system, it is, but
Yeah.
going back, I've seen where in 2001, it's not,
So
so.
it's been being taxed as ag, but it
It's-
wasn't actually for all these years, but it was.
Commercial, yeah.
Commercial.
There was some reluctancy on the previous owner
Yeah.
because they were exploring potential commercial endeavors
Yep.
such as mini storage sheds, those type of things,
Mhm.
but that never developed. The new buyer wants to carry through and do the project as they have proposed.
Cause they've already, the ground already broken that?
They have,
Yeah.
they've put in some holding tanks
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to share a well with the neighboring property.
So looking at Greg's property next to it, he does not have an issue or he does have an issue?
He does not.
Okay.
Yep. By this action, he'll keep the status quo that we just need to correct things with our system with GIS to make sure it's accurately depicted moving
Planning
forward.
commission was unanimous. There was no one.
Yeah,
who spoke.
no,
No
nobody
one
was-
spoke up.
Yeah.
No, I was curious about that too. Is there any
Yeah.
reason not to?
Well, Greg is really the only one and Jay obviously is his brother or whatever. owns
Fun.
The other stuff has got that ranch house there and then it's Jerome Foods and I'm sure Jerome Foods would say, well, you want to build a house next to our turkey barns, but it is what it is. So.
I did listen to the planning commission meeting. I think maybe you were absent at,
Yeah, I
That-
was not,
yeah,
Yeah.
at that one, but I didn't remember anybody speaking against it.
no, there was no,
Yeah,
no, no.
So-
And like Eric said, it's kind of housekeeping, correcting.
Yeah,
something.
in looking at how we amended our amendment section for this, I think we actually could have sufficed with one public hearing at the planning commission level, but we went to the trouble of noticing this. We published again, we sent out another round. And I thought just to be safe, we're having the public hearing today on this and to basically see this through.
Did we ever determine how the classification got messed up?
I think because of, there were some annexations that were going on and there were some changes that were funneled through. I think it just got lost in translation.
Never been in the state, never been in the cities.
Correct, but some of the
Yeah.
adjacent properties.
Yeah,
to-
it's
to the
right
east
on the
had
edge.
been.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay, next slide. Next slide. And this is just LiDAR showing 2-foot contours for reference. Next slide. And this is showing the survey, parcel B, kind of showing the historic nature of the remnant of a railroad that used to exist. It used to continue on to the east and west.
They're keeping the driveway in the current location.
They're using the shared driveway with the son's property. Next slide.
Son, I guess. Yeah.
And this has changed. This was earlier in the fall. And as mentioned now, there's been some excavation prep work that's been done. The pole building that you see is a neighboring property. That is a Heim. That is going to continue to stay commercial. But basically the base has been established to where the new building's going to go on this side. You can see where the state DOT right-of-way marker is. That just shows that it is really hamstrung for space and room to actually make that a truly viable building site. So what the new owners have done is they brought forth the most viable project that they could.
But did
with
we,
that
we haven't
property.
issued any kind of, does it require a conditional use permit? You said a multi-housing unit.
No, just one housing unit with living quarters inside an existing building.
They don't need a conditional use permit for that?
No. No, because that's an existing parcel of record. If this is a new parcel, a new proposed split, then we'd have the density issue.
Question. You said that Himes is listed as commercial?
Correct.
It's on Beacon as agricultural resource conservation.
Correct. That would need to be corrected, but I believe if you look at the tax rate, they are being commercially taxed, but the actual zoning district is incorrect, and that would need to be depicted correctly as a commercial.
Does that come
Be-
back to us?
No,
Well, I don't know if that is because it's valued at 386,000 and only being taxed at 6,500. And I have properties that are valued at 400 and some thousand commercially, and I'm getting taxed 13,000. So there's some sort of discrepancy there.
okay. Well, we will correct that as far as what the assessment records in the GIS map and Beacon. So if they have to revisit it, that's something that they'll have to do. Next slide. Again, just kind of showing the idle nature of the parcel at this point. Where the vehicle's parked on the left is essentially the drive access coming from a drive that's located to the east. Next slide. Oh, next slide. Okay. We did meet with the St. Charles Township Board, kind of went over the circumstances, and as typical with this township, they just elect to say no comments in regards to the request. Next slide. Recommendation is that Planning Commission conducted a public hearing November 20th and with the two amendments, so it is a two-part request. Staff had prepared findings of fact in conjunction with the county attorney's office to rezone, to reclassify property. Essentially, it's the findings of fact of why the reasons are to do that. The planning commission adopted those and recommended them be forwarded to the county board. And next slide, I won't read those. These are in your packet, pretty small print. But anytime you again rezone or reclassify, this is an amendment action. That's the crutch of the issue. So
Question, Eric, why,
Mhm.
why won't they be able to homestead? If they're building a home within the shed, why can't they homestead it?
they can homestead it.
But it says here will not be able to homestead.
Would
this acreage.
technically not unless we make this change, because then it stays commercial and there's reaches or there's avenues out there for them to try to get some type of residential accommodations on there, but right now,
Okay.
turning it back to agricultural
Homestead
is the best.
It's are going away rapidly or being reduced
Yeah.
values. Okay, but they will be able to.
They
homestead
would
it.
be able to,
Okay.
yes. And last slide, again, that's number 4, number 5. And essentially looking at the harmony, that it's not consisting of spot zoning, that it's done to the benefit of the whole. Those are the key elements in this action. So with that, I think that's it. And the last slide is just any additional questions before you conduct public hearing. Your motion could include both, as long as the findings of fact are included in with that recommendation. Other than that, any questions on this? Return it over.
I don't know how I feel about this, but I've heard from other counties around the state where people are building more and more of these living quarters in a agricultural shed. And there is a problem being created with them being able to get insurance. Now, if that puts anybody at risk for, I don't know. I don't know where, this is just anecdotal. I haven't talked to any insurance agents or anything, but I don't know if we put anybody at risk by allowing them to do this, or if we put any, like if it's an emergency management situation where they need ambulance or fire service or something, that somehow we have to let the local volunteers know there's living space in these quarters. But that's something we may have to deal with in the future if they can't do. Is insurance required? No. And would I go without it? Probably yes. But again, is that creating a problem for the neighborhood? I don't know.
Yeah, those are all good points. I mean, in this case, an address assignment has been assigned to this property for that purpose. When they come in, we ask questions. It is a metal pole building, but what's the trust? What's the snow load? Do you have fire barrier walls? Those type of questions.
Yeah.
Those are all for the safe being of the occupants that are
I don't
creating
enforce
these.
the building code, but we do need to keep people safe, and if we're granting permits, it kind of says we're at the table. Commissioner Vagley, open the public.
So, yeah, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, all right, we have a motion by Commissioner Vagley, second by Commissioner Meyer to open the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, public hearing is open. We got more questions? Anybody? Okay, is there anyone wishing to address the county board on the public hearing on the Leonard's property? Is there anyone wishing to address either in person or online? Is there anyone wishing to address the county board on the public hearing for the Leonard's rezoning amendment? Seeing nobody?
Was that the third one?
Yep, that was the third one.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Olson to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Oh, approved. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Vagley.
Eric, tell me if there's a better way to make this motion. I'll make a motion to accept the findings of fact and to approve the amendment. Is that what you were looking for?
Yes, to approve the amendment, which includes a reclassification to the comprehensive plan map and a amendment to the official zoning map of the county.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Vagley, second by Commissioner Meyer to officially approve the amendment and the official zoning map. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, it's approved.
Thank you, Eric.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, 8.8.
Eric,
Oh,
it is correct. I did the math.
Okay, Commissioner Vagley.
I'll make the motion to approve, if it's okay with the rest of the board, to bunch items 8.8 through 8.16.
I'll second it.
Okay,
If this is all
that's the
the,
Legion
yep, the
post.
different legions and VFWs and.
For which one through which?
8.8 through 8.16. It's all the legions and veteran.
Okay, we
VFWs.
have a motion by Commissioner Vagley, second by Commissioner Meyer to approve the outside agency requirements 8.8 through 8.16, which is the American Legion and Sons of American Legion and the Military Order of Purple Heart and the Foreign War
VFW.
Veterans, VFWs. And it's a $90 contribution. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, that is approved. Okay, then we're moving into 8.17.
Madam Chair, I would move then to go ahead and as a group approve 8.17 through 8.25.
Five
8.
or 2.9.
I'll go for 2.9. How do you like that?
Okay,
We'll do the whole shebang.
okay, we have motion by Commissioner Meyer. Did I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Vagley to approve the outside agency request 817 through 829. Discussion. I can't support those. I'll lump together. Some should be specific contracts. And in some, we've got agencies that have in excess of $1 million in their reserves and such. And for us to be giving and them needing to come ask us in this financial economic times for more money, I just find irresponsible. It's not huge dollars, but there is principle involved here. I know the Southeast Minnesota Initiative Fund, I think they've got like 1.9, and even I think the libraries have, I looked up like 1.3 in reserves, and then some of the others have I didn't dig into all of them again, but they do have reserves. I do question the 8.19, that 45,000 for interpreter service, if that truly is a contract or that's a gift. And again, when I went through that mandates, one of the places says that interpretive service is not mandated, and I've been told both ways, so I'm unclear on that. But I cannot support those. My constituents do not support those. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving 8.17 to 8.29, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. Okay. All right. That concludes our regular business. Commissioner Vagley.
Just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to the county board, county attorney, county administrator, all the staff in the county. Thank you for what you do, and Merry Christmas to everybody.
We do.
Okay. How about, Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah.
And what other,
And all the others.
yeah,
Kwanzaa.
Yep.
Kwanzaa, yeah, and yes,
all.
many different
Many.
celebrations this time of year. Commissioner Elsing.
I just wanted to say Merry Christmas to everybody also. And just wish everybody a safe holiday and look forward to another new year. So
That takes care of that. Commissioner Meyer, you
Yeah.
had a committee.
Yeah, I went to Soil Water earlier this week. They had this chart, and I have a few extra copies if anyone in the audience wants one. This is funding that comes from watershed-based, oopsie, here it is. Some of the watershed-based initiatives. So on this big piece of paper, you can see from the WinLAC, one watershed, one plan, and the wind and the river, the variety of programs that they are funding. And I made some notes on here because they said the brush management and the conservation cover were the programs that they have double or triple the demand for the money that they have. And those are the ones that they wish, if the county was going to fund something else, that we would give them money for that. And then the smaller sheet is really the lifetime of the measure. And what I was impressed with is you could see that their cover crops, they really have a lot of work that they've been doing in cover crops, but that's only for 1 year. And some of these other practices have a much longer lifespan. And I think if any of you are interested in hearing any more about that, I would certainly support asking someone from Soil Water to come in and talk more with us about what these programs are. So.
Okay. Commissioner Elsing.
yeah, let's piggyback on that. I've seen many of these over the years. Just looking at different funds and things that are programmed. One of the big things with the SWCD that I've said from the very beginning, somebody that preached cover crops before even SWCDs picked up on them, different things like that. The last thing I wanted to do was create another taxpayer subsidized program. So that's why a lot of the early implementation of these programs were designed to teach people. And just as importantly as taking money from constituents to help landowners realize something, there's two sides to every coin, very similar to accountability. A lot of these programs are based on education, and we need to make it so that it isn't a long-term subsidy. But in other words, just as equally as trying it, as equally as understanding the results of it. Otherwise, a lot of people take taxpayer money, use something, but don't really understand the true short and long-term benefits. So it is something that is designed with these SWCDs to solve immediate problems, but also to provide long-term benefits both to landowners and the people that are affected by landowners. So it's interesting enough to see a lot of these numbers and the different programs that are put into place. So when they talk cover crops and the demand for those, how that's gone up and down over the years, keep in mind those programs are never designed to be long-term programs. At the same level with SWCD, I've also said the same thing about accountability. And I just bring this up, and I'm glad that Commissioner Meyer brought this to attention. At the flip side, I've also said, when does it become no longer the taxpayer's burden to solve other people's problems? When somebody acquires a piece of land that has a well that hasn't been inspected or has a bunch of invasive species, but they've decided, well, I'm going to buy the land anyway because the real estate person isn't telling them that, the banker isn't looking at it, and then all of a sudden the taxpayer has to foot the bill for something they're ultimately responsible for. So the common consensus becomes, well, if we do nothing, nothing will happen and they'll let it get out of hand. And then the other side is, well, why should I have to pay for your problem? Right. So very similar to some of the debates on wells and septic systems, meaning the person who lives in a municipality paying a tax now not only has to pay for the cost of their well and septic system, but also somebody else that made a conscious decision to move out in the country and then say, well, sorry, I don't have the money to pay for it. I want everybody else to pay. So the system of checks and balances that sit in this department is something I've advocated and gotten on my soapbox many times. And we need to be careful that where we're taking taxpayers' money is not just simply to subsidize somebody being irresponsible with decisions. And how do we do that? So it is the 10, 12-year history of sitting on these boards and having looked at many of these that you had two sides to the coin, but I still say it's one of the best ones out there for boots in the ground. County.
Madam Chair? Yes. Just to correct part of your assertion, Commissioner Elsing, a big share of you can see on this column what's coming from federal, what's coming from the landowner. But the point is, part of this is coming from the watershed-based implementation funds. The residents of the state of Minnesota voted to tax themselves with a sales tax, and that is a big portion of the ongoing funding. So it is a thing that Minnesotans care about clean water and have decided that they would like to support and fund clean water efforts. So
I'm not sure what I disagreed with that. I'm lost here. What was did I say that wasn't in favor of that?
What you're saying is, oh, the taxpayers don't want to fund this. They just do it initially and then it isn't their burden. What I am asserting is the state of Minnesota and much of this funding is the taxpayer saying, yes, we do care about clean water and yes, we do want to fund these weapons.
Yeah.
And that is an ongoing supply of funding at a time when state and other federal programs are cutting back on the amount of money that's available.
Yeah.
And we're lucky for that. And I'm grateful to the taxpayers for that.
Yeah, I think maybe misrepresented what I was trying to say. We know that there's finite dollars to do these programs, and it is physically impossible. If you could do the math for me, and you'll find out what I'm saying is true, to subsidize every agriculture acre in the state of Minnesota. The tax burden would be so overwhelming, we would literally bankrupt the state. That's data. So the ability to tax ourselves into that prosperity is impossible. So what I brought up was the fact that I've been in the industry for 25 years and I've seen the benefits of cover crops. So knowing consciously that we can't subsidize every acre, we have to do the best we can in the short amount of time to show them the results so they take on the economic impact of it to also receive the benefit. So I said, if we're going to do this, let's set a time frame so we can recycle the money because it's impossible for us to subsidize every acre financially. So that is the point of having a time frame to it. Whether everybody wants it or not, they might not understand it is physically impossible to subsidize every agriculture acre at a state level at that economic sector. Because you're talking $40, $50, $60 an acre. That impact on that on millions of acres is just not sustainable to our state budget. So, and that's just the cost of that subsidy, let alone everything else it takes to go with it. So the idea was to put a long enough time frame for education educate the landowner why it's beneficial for them to adopt the practices, and then recycle that money to a new landowner.
And it would be interesting if they could add here, so you got 20 contracts, which is great. I mean, it's good work. But how many acres have they really impacted in Winona
Pretty s-
County with these projects?
Pretty
And
substantial.
It should,
Yeah.
it should be high,
Yep.
but it's unfortunate that I remember in my experiences with even my own family, when my father was actively farming, he would do practices, and he was a conservation of the year for Fillmore County one time. But he didn't want the government money because he got better prices and he got, contractors did the work efficiently and such. So there's a lot of people, unfortunately, and do we have trust in the government? That they don't want to deal with the paperwork part of these projects is enormous. And we talked earlier, how much administrative time to go into these projects, and hopefully it's good, well spent, but it increases. And again, and I hate to see it, some of these projects wouldn't be done without this, but I would love to see prescribed grazing lifespan. I'd like to see more acres in prescribed grazing in Winona County. So that's just.
Cows. Some people
But it's
don't like,
hard.
some people don't like cows.
I know, and they don't realize the commitment it takes to be a livestock producer. It's huge. Okay, let's see, that took care of a couple comments. Commissioner Meyer said earlier, the government isn't going away. Well, unfortunately, I think it's at a tipping point. I read the articles this morning. The Sheriff's Association sent a letter of no confidence to the Commissioner of Department of Corrections. And over the years, we've been Winona County and every county gets kind of jerked around by the Department of Corrections. They have one staff that comes in and say, you need to do this in your jail. And then that staff changes and then the next person comes in, no, you need to do this. So there was, I want to say, I don't know if our sheriff was there. They had a association statewide meeting a month or so ago, and they drafted this letter. And the reason it comes to mind is that through MCIT, we work very hard with the Sheriff's Association to make our jails safer, to eliminate the risks that are inherent with jails. And we do a lot of work there. So it was interesting that the Sheriff's Association sent this letter. And then the other one was, and I don't know if any of our mayors in Winona County, 98 mayors sent a letter to the legislature, I think it was, saying they kind of like a vote of no confidence. You can't keep doing this to us. The tax implications and everything that you're doing are filtering down too much. So maybe the government is on a little shakier ground, Commissioner Meyer. They're not going away, but they're a little shakier. And people are taking a stance. They're taking notice. Future board action, I would ask, I think we still have a fraud investigation unit that we're part of. Isn't it a multi-county? We used to get a report. Isn't it a deputy from Wabasha or something? People have asked me, where's fraud in Winona County? And I said, well, we do partake in that and we haven't heard any kind of report. So I'd ask for support to get some kind of report from that particular group that's working on that in Southeast
I'll second
Minnesota.
that.
Okay, so we'll move that up to another board meeting. And maybe
You're asking for a summary, right?
yeah, what's going on? We used to get a report. He came in and kind of alluded what they'd been doing, and I don't know. I asked, I don't know. We haven't gotten a report. And the other board action, and I don't know what Ms. Holte has planned and Mr. Sonnenberg for doing this budget stuff, but it's come up again. Several constituents have asked, are you going to create that advisory financial committee? And I would like to have a little more discussion on that if we want to do that sooner than later. So I would ask for support to investigate a little further now that we have a finance director in place. I don't know if anybody else will support that.
Yeah,
Okay.
will.
All right. So we can move that forward for a little, give it some thought over the holiday and maybe give it a little more direction, something like that. Other than that, yes,
Commissioner
Commissioner
Olson is
Olson.
Yeah,
trying to get your attention.
for fear of missing Christmas, a motion to adjourn.
Well, motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Second, we have a motion by Commissioner Olson. Vaguely's got 45 minutes. All those in favor,
Our-
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
nay. I would, just publicly, not the Grinch, in my own personal
You
family.
think you're the Grinch?
I'm very, very supportive of my individual family and everybody's families in their holiday celebrations. But be safe. be, you know, it's amazing now that we have snow on the ground. You can see the deer traffic much better. You drive out in the country and you can see their highways to, some deer in my neighborhood go right across my property to the neighbors to his silage feed bag. And I know they're right where they're going. They're going to have dinner at his silage feed bag and so.
So no meeting on
Be
the
very careful.
6th, but a meeting on the 13th.
Yeah, the next meeting is the
Don't have to meet
13th.
on the 6th?
We don't have to swear anybody in. That's the statutory requirement
Yep.
for that early meeting.
So it's the second.
Oh, I don't know. Did we vote? Did we,
13th and
did we
27th.
approve that motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know, he's up in the back.
Oh,
All right.
Yeah, Minnesota
Was
was
that right?